Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into something powerful. 25 Black LGBTQ plus couples who are redefining love, pride, and resilience. Some will make you smile, some might surprise you. Stick around till the end and don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop your favorite couple in the comments. In a world of flashing lights and roaring fame, RuPaul Charles, the undisputed queen of drag, found his greatest peace not on stage, but on a quiet ranch in Wyoming with the love of his life, Georges LeBar. They met in 1994 on a dance floor in New York City, two souls from different worlds colliding. George, a private artist and rancher, wanted nothing of the spotlight. Yet somehow they made it work. For over 2 decades, they nurtured a bond rooted in independence and quiet devotion. In 2017, they married on the exact anniversary of the night they met, 23 years of love later. While RuPaul dominates global pop culture, Georges remains the calm in his storm. Ru once said, "He doesn't care about showbiz. He's just my rock." Their love story proves that true intimacy doesn't need to be loud, it just needs to be real. In a world obsessed with glam, they've built something raw, steady, and timeless. Niecy Nash and Jessica Betts. When Emmy-nominated actress Niecy Nash married singer-songwriter Jessica Betts in 2020, the internet gasped and then applauded. The surprise announcement came with a simple, powerful caption, "Plot twist." And what a twist it was. Their romance blossomed from a deep friendship into a love that redefined expectations. This wasn't just about Niecy coming out. As she later clarified, "I didn't come out, I came into myself." Together, the couple broke boundaries by becoming the first same-sex partners to appear on the cover of Essence magazine. Whether singing together on stage or walking red carpets hand in hand, Niecy and Jessica radiate joy, authenticity, and radical self-love. They're not afraid to be playful, soulful, and real, all at once. Their love is proof that sometimes the most beautiful stories are the ones we never saw coming, and that true happiness comes from living unapologetically. Brittany Griner and Sherelle Griner. Their love story is one of perseverance, devotion, and undeniable strength. WNBA icon Brittany Griner met Sherelle while they were both students at Baylor University, and their connection was instant. They married in 2019, forming a rock-solid partnership. But in 2022, that love was tested in the most unimaginable way. When Brittany was detained in Russia, Sherelle became her fiercest advocate. She worked tirelessly with lawyers, the media, and even the White House to bring her wife home. Her efforts became a global symbol of unwavering loyalty. When Brittany was finally freed in December, their emotional reunion moved millions to tears. Since then, they've stood side by side, stronger than ever. Brittany often calls Sherelle her anchor, and it's easy to see why. Their journey proves that real love doesn't crumble under pressure. It rises, it fights, and it wins. Billy Porter and Adam Smith. The world knows Billy Porter for his red carpet slayage, his Broadway brilliance, and his defiant voice for queer rights. But behind the glitz stands Adam Smith, his quiet anchor. The two first dated in 2009, then parted ways, only to reunite 5 years later with a love that felt even more aligned. In 2017, they tied the knot in an intimate ceremony surrounded by friends and family. Their relationship is a balance of boldness and calm, Billy's dynamic presence countered by Adam's steady support. Whether sharing a laugh backstage or weathering public battles like Billy's HIV diagnosis, their bond remains unshakable. Billy once said, "He saw me when I couldn't see myself." Together, they redefine modern Black queer love, rooted in healing, second chances, and the beauty of being fully seen. Debrat and Jessica Dupart. Hip-hop legend Debrat had always kept her personal life private, until Jessica Dupart, the beauty mogul behind Kaleidoscope hair products, changed everything. Their love story is bold, unapologetic, and fiercely loyal. The couple went public in 2020 with a sweet birthday post, and fans were instantly obsessed. In 2022, they threw a lavish fairy tale wedding, decked out in glam, sparkle, and raw emotion. Since then, they've embraced their shared spotlight, openly celebrating each other's wins, whether in the music world or business boardrooms. And in 2023, they welcomed their first child together, adding a whole new layer to their story. Debrat once said, "Jessica makes me feel safe being fully me." Together, they show that Black queer love isn't just possible, it's powerful, joyful, and limitless. Samira Wiley and Lauren Morelli. Some love stories begin on movie sets, but Samira Wiley and Lauren Morelli started behind the scenes. Samira, who played Pussy on Orange is the New Black, captured hearts with her raw, heartfelt performance, while Lauren, the show's head writer, was quietly discovering her own truth. Working together sparked more than just creativity, it sparked self-realization. Lauren, then married to a man, came out during the series and fell in love with Samira. They married in 2017 in a stunning Palm Springs ceremony surrounded by joy and pride. Their story became a symbol of authenticity and the freedom that comes from living your truth. Together, they've become powerful advocates for LGBTQ+ visibility, especially for women of color. Through it all, their message has remained clear. Love should never be something you hide. Love is brave. Love is real. Sean T. and Scott Blocker. Sean T., the high-octane creator of Insanity, and Scott Blocker, a former pro football player, prove that strength isn't just built in the gym, it's built at home. They met at a fitness event and instantly clicked, despite both carrying emotional baggage. They fell hard and fast, marrying in 2012. At first, Sean kept their relationship under wraps, but eventually he came out publicly, on his own terms. In 2017, the couple welcomed twin boys via surrogacy, a journey filled with setbacks and deep soul-searching. Today, they balance parenting, business, and advocacy with humor and hustle. Their love is not flashy, it's foundational. Sean often calls Scott his calm and balance. And Scott, in turn, says Sean gave him purpose beyond the scoreboard. Together, they've turned fitness into family and vulnerability into victory. Todrick Hall and Jesse Patterson. Todrick Hall lives loud, on stage, online, and everywhere in between. But his relationship with Jesse Patterson is a rare pocket of calm in an otherwise chaotic world. Todrick, a multi-hyphenate performer known for his dazzling YouTube videos, Broadway stints, and activism, has never shied away from being himself. Jesse, meanwhile, is more private, choosing to stay mostly out of the spotlight, but their love speaks volumes. They've supported each other through career highs and social media storms, through world tours and quiet moments at home. Todrick once said, "He's my peace when the world feels loud." While they may not flaunt their romance, the bond is clear, grounded in loyalty, patience, and mutual respect. It's a love that reminds us, you don't always have to post it to prove it. Sometimes the best parts are the ones no one sees. Monifa and Therese. R&B singer Monifa made headlines in 2014 when she married her longtime partner, Therese, in a private Hawaiian ceremony that later aired on R&B Divas. It was a groundbreaking moment, the first Black lesbian wedding on reality TV. Monifa, known for her soulful 90s hits, had faced pushback for her relationship, even from family. But her love for Therese never wavered. "I didn't come out, I just started living out loud," she said. Therese, a writer and educator, stood by Monifa through public scrutiny and personal healing. Their union wasn't just about love, it was a revolution, especially in a music industry where queerness among Black women was often silenced. Now, as advocates and artists, they continue to push for representation, reminding the world that visibility matters. Their love is not only tender, it's transformative. Jamal Terry Sims and Octavius Terry Sims. Jamal and Octavius are not just husbands, they're a creative force. Jamal, a choreographer who's worked with Beyoncé and on major films, and Octavius, a trailblazing fashion designer, met through mutual friends and instantly clicked over shared ambition. In 2014, they married in a glamorous wedding that blended Hollywood elegance with unapologetic Black love. As two creatives, they've collaborated on fashion shoots, performance pieces, and social impact projects. But beyond the artistry lies something deeper: mutual respect and fierce dedication. Both grew up in environments where queerness wasn't celebrated, and now they're using their platforms to mentor queer youth through workshops and storytelling. Their love is bold, visionary, and deeply rooted in service. Together, they remind us that Black queer excellence isn't just a vibe, it's a movement. Jason Bolden and Adair Curtis. Jason Bolden and Adair Curtis are the epitome of Black excellence in style and sophistication. As stars of Netflix's styling Hollywood, they let the world into their fast-paced life of red carpets, interior makeovers, and deep devotion. Jason, a celebrity stylist, and Adair, an interior designer, married in 2012 and built not only a life, but a brand together. Their on-screen chemistry is effortless, but off-screen it's even more real. Late-night parenting duties, creative brainstorming sessions, and the kind of quiet support that success is built on. In 2021, they welcomed their son through surrogacy, a milestone that added even more purpose to their journey. Jason once said, "Adair is the calm to my storm." And that balance is what makes them so magnetic. Together, they show that love, when rooted in mutual respect and shared vision, can create empires. Antonio and Kirvan Doothit Boyd. When Antonio and Kirvan dance, it's like watching love in motion. As two of the standout stars of the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, they didn't just fall in love on stage, they embodied it. Their chemistry was unmistakable, their synergy breathtaking. In 2013, they gave their final performance together at Lincoln Center, a moment filled with tears, standing ovations, and a quiet promise of forever. After leaving Ailey, they continued teaching and choreographing across the country, sharing their passion with the next generation. They've turned dance into dialogue about identity, love, and being proudly Black and queer in the arts. Their story is a reminder that some partnerships aren't just romantic, they're revolutionary. Together, they move not just bodies, but hearts. Juan and Guy Smalls. Juan and Guy Smalls are more than just a couple, they're a movement. As co-owners of Virgil's Gullah Kitchen and Bar, they serve up soul food with a side of representation. But their impact goes far beyond the kitchen. In 2019, they became the first Black gay couple to appear on House Hunters, shattering stereotypes in living rooms nationwide. Their chemistry is electric, their energy infectious. Together, they also founded the Gentlemen's Foundation, a nonprofit that supports Black LGBTQ+ men through mentorship and advocacy. Their marriage isn't just built on love, it's built on purpose. Juan once said, "We don't just want a seat at the table, we're building our own." And that's exactly what they've done. Created space, created visibility, and created legacy. Brian Terrell Clark and DeVario Simmons. Broadway lights brought them together, but love made them shine even brighter. Brian Terrell Clark, best known for playing George Washington in Hamilton, met costume designer DeVario Simmons while immersed in the magic of theater. Sparks flew behind the scenes, and what started as creative collaboration soon turned into something far deeper. In 2022, they married, cementing a bond built on vision, vulnerability, and shared artistry. Brian often praises DeVario for his talent and calm focus, while DeVario describes Brian as the fire that fuels their dreams. Together, they advocate for inclusion and authenticity in theater, uplifting young queer artists and pushing for broader representation. They've proven that when two artists fall in love, the world becomes their stage, and their love, the most powerful act. Derek Gordon and Boomer. When Derek Gordon came out in 2014, he made history as the first openly gay player in NCAA Division I men's basketball. It was a courageous leap in a sport long dominated by silence around queerness. But it was the love and support of his partner, Boomer, that helped him navigate the aftermath. Their relationship is grounded in resilience. On social media, they show up for each other unapologetically, sharing travel adventures, gym selfies, and moments of raw honesty. Derek has said that Boomer gave him the confidence to be more than just a trailblazer, to be a whole, happy human being. In a world that too often puts masculinity in a box, they break the mold. Their story reminds us, visibility saves lives, and love gives it meaning. Titus Burgess and Pablo Salinas. Titus Burgess, the Emmy-nominated actor known for his unforgettable role as Titus Andromedon in Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, brings brilliance and flair to every role. But behind that glittering smile is a quieter kind of love. His relationship with Pablo Salinas is intentionally low-key, but deeply rooted in support and shared joy. Though not much is shared publicly, what we do see, sweet photos, subtle mentions, quiet cheers from the sidelines, tells a story of genuine connection. Titus has credited Pablo with being his steady in a world that often demands sparkle. Their love may not scream for attention, but it's powerful in its privacy. It's a reminder that not all Black queer love needs to be loud to be revolutionary. Sometimes it's in the stillness that we find the strongest bonds. 66 Poppy and Dara Rule. They may not be household names yet, but 66 Poppy and Dara Rule are the definition of underground icons. One is a fashion-forward influencer, the other a DJ with a killer vibe, and together they're raising a beautiful daughter while balancing the hustle of the creative world. Their relationship is pure modern Black queer energy, bold, stylish, and refreshingly authentic. Whether it's a Fly family photo shoot or a behind-the-scenes reel from a music event, they share their world unapologetically. Parenthood has only deepened their connection, teaching them how to move as a unit in a world that often tries to tear families like theirs apart. They're not just breaking molds, they're building new ones. And their story proves that love doesn't have to be conventional to be deeply powerful. Anthony Wayne and Kendrell Bowman. When Broadway star Anthony Wayne took the stage in You Make Me Feel Mighty Real, a musical tribute to disco legend Sylvester, he wasn't just performing, he was honoring his truth. But that truth wouldn't have been as powerful without his creative and life partner, stylist and designer, Kendrell Bowman. Together, they co-created the show, blending music, fashion, and advocacy into a groundbreaking statement. Their relationship thrives at the intersection of art and activism, proving that when love and purpose align, magic happens. They've dressed stars, staged shows, and mentored the next generation of Black queer artists. Their love isn't just romantic, it's revolutionary. They live by one motto: create loudly, love louder. And every project they touch carries the fire of that shared heartbeat. Bishop Oliver Clyde Allen III and Rashad Burgess. At the intersection of faith, love, and radical inclusion stand Bishop Oliver Clyde Allen and Rashad Burgess, partners in life, in ministry, and in transformation. As leaders of Vision Church in Atlanta, they've built a spiritual home for people often turned away by tradition. Their love story is just personal, it's political, and deeply spiritual. Together, they've raised 2 children, challenged homophobia in religious spaces, and redefined what Black queer family looks like in the modern South. Featured in the documentary Holler If You Hear Me, Black and Gay in the Church, they've become symbols of possibility. Bishop Allen once said, "God is love, and our family is proof." Their story shatters the myth that faith and queerness can't coexist, and offers a new gospel of acceptance, love, and power. Candace Parker and Anna Petrakova. When WNBA superstar Candace Parker revealed that she had married Russian basketball player Anna Petrakova, and that they were expecting a child, it shook sports media in the best way. Candace, already a 2-time MVP and Olympic gold medalist, had long kept her personal life private. But with Anna, something shifted. Their 2019 wedding was quiet, intimate, and deeply personal, shared with the world only years later. The couple welcomed a son in 2022, and the images of their blended family melted hearts worldwide. Candace has spoken openly about how Anna supports her both on and off the court, calling her "my rock." In a male-dominated sports world, their visibility is everything. Their love breaks barriers, defies norms, and slam dunks every expectation society ever placed on them. Jaime Augusto Richards and Joshua Gabor Richards. Known for his roles in Angel and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Jaime Augusto Richards has spent his life portraying powerful characters, but his most powerful role came in real life when he came out as gay in 2020. Not long after, he introduced the world to his now husband, Joshua Gabor Richards, a creative force in music and fashion. Their love story unfolded quietly but beautifully. In 2023, they exchanged vows in a ceremony filled with color, culture, and community. Guests described it as deeply emotional, a true celebration of Black queer joy. Jaime Augusto once said, "Our love is rooted in authenticity and artistic truth." Their partnership blends art and advocacy, showing that when 2 people fully embrace who they are, they create space for others to do the same. Their union isn't just romantic, it's revolutionary. Karine Jean-Pierre and Suzanne Malveaux. In the world of politics and journalism, power couples don't get more trailblazing than Karine Jean-Pierre and Suzanne Malveaux. Karine, the first Black and openly gay White House press secretary, has shattered more ceilings than most dream of. Suzanne, an accomplished CNN journalist, is no stranger to breaking news or breaking barriers. Together, they've built a life rooted in integrity, intellect, and quiet strength. Though they keep much of their personal life private, their relationship represents a crucial kind of visibility, especially for young Black queer women navigating public-facing careers. They've also raised a daughter together, balancing parenthood with high-stakes professions. In a world that still questions whether you can be Black, queer, and powerful, Karine and Suzanne are living proof. You absolutely can. Kalani and 07 News Shake. When Kalani and 07 News Shake confirmed their relationship in 2022, fans already suspected, but no one was ready for how unapologetically real it would be. Kalani, a Grammy-nominated singer, and 07 News Shake, a rising star in the hip-hop world, radiate Gen Z queer energy. They post love notes, car karaoke sessions, tour bus cuddles, nothing filtered, nothing fake. It's a relationship fueled by creativity, rebellion, and mutual healing. Kalani, who identifies as queer and non-binary, once said, "Loving out loud is political." Their visibility means something, especially for young fans still learning to navigate identity. Though their romance eventually ended, the cultural impact lingers. They prove that two queer women of color can take up space in the mainstream, and look damn good doing it. Raven-Symoné and Miranda Madej. For years, Disney Channel icon Raven-Symoné kept her personal life guarded. But in 2020, she surprised fans with news of her secret wedding to Miranda Madej, a social media manager and creative professional. The announcement wasn't flashy, it was heartfelt, paired with a caption that read, "I got married to a woman who understands me from trigger to joy, from breakfast to midnight snack, from stage to home." Their relationship reflects what so many long for: safety, humor, growth. Since marrying, Raven has spoken openly about how Miranda helped her embrace her identity more fully after decades of fame and pressure. Together, they host a podcast, make quirky TikToks, and show up for each other, no matter what. Their love isn't about headlines, it's about home. Wanda Sykes and Alex Sykes. Funny, fierce, and fearlessly honest, Wanda Sykes has long been a queen of comedy. But her love story with French businesswoman Alex Sykes adds a tender, grounded layer to her public persona. They met in 2006 on a ferry ride where Wanda was immediately smitten. 2 years later, they married and began a journey that's as real as it is romantic. Wanda came out publicly the same year they wed, using her platform to advocate for LGBTQ+ rights with her signature wit and wisdom. Together, they've raised twins, navigated Hollywood, and shown that love can thrive beyond cultural lines. Wanda often jokes that Alex is the only person who can tell her to sit down, and she'll actually listen. Their story proves that love doesn't just change your world, it can help you laugh through it too. And that's our list of 25 incredible Black LGBTQ+ couples, showing us that love truly wins. If you felt inspired, give this video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and let us know which couple touched your heart the most. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
What if we told you that behind the glamour and fame, some of Hollywood's most iconic women were living love stories the world never saw coming? From secret romances to surprise weddings, these 25 Black lesbian stars have stories that'll make you smile, cheer, and maybe even tear up a little. Drop a comment if someone on this list surprises you, and don't forget to like and subscribe, because trust us, you're going to want more stories like these. For years, Queen Latifah reigned as one of the most iconic women in hip-hop in Hollywood, breaking barriers with every step she took. But while the world admired her fierce talent and undeniable charisma, her personal life remained a mystery. Rumors swirled, whispers followed, but Latifah stayed silent until 2021. On stage at the BET Awards, with millions watching, she finally said it. "Ebony, my love." It was just a few words, but they echoed like a roar. After decades of silence, Queen Latifah publicly acknowledged her longtime partner, Ebony Nichols, a dancer and choreographer who had been by her side since 2013. Their love had always existed in the quiet spaces, red carpets, shared glances, silent strength. And though Latifah had fiercely protected her privacy, the moment came when pride beat fear. She didn't just come out, she claimed joy. In a world that often demands labels, she chose love. Today, Queen Latifah continues to inspire, not just through her art, but by showing that being true to yourself is the most powerful role you'll ever play. From the moment she charmed audiences on The Cosby Show and later starred in That's So Raven, Raven-Symoné was a household name. But while she made millions laugh, her journey behind the scenes was far more personal and powerful. For years, Raven kept her identity private. Though she knew she was attracted to women, she didn't feel the need or the safety to come out publicly. That changed in 2013 when she tweeted her joy that same-sex marriage was finally becoming legal. It was a subtle but clear signal to the world. Raven was ready to live her truth. By 2020, she took everyone by surprise when she quietly married Miranda Madej, a social media manager. The two tied the knot in an intimate backyard ceremony, and Raven announced the news with a heartfelt post. Fans who had grown up with her were moved to see their childhood star embracing love so openly. Raven later explained that she had always been herself, but now she was choosing to live publicly, unapologetically. In marrying Miranda, she wasn't just declaring her love, she was reclaiming her story. Janelle Monáe is more than a singer or actress, she's a movement. With her bold style, fearless creativity, and soul-stirring performances in films like Moonlight and Hidden Figures, Janelle captured the world's attention. But in 2018, she opened up like never before. In an interview with Rolling Stone, Janelle revealed she identified as pansexual. She'd previously called herself bisexual, but pansexuality, being attracted to people regardless of gender, felt like the most honest reflection of who she was. While Janelle never confirmed her rumored relationship with actress Tessa Thompson, their deep connection was undeniable. They collaborated artistically, appeared in intimate music videos together, and supported one another proudly. Janelle has always emphasized the importance of living authentically and challenging norms, especially as a Black queer artist in a world that often demands conformity. Through her music, her message, and her unapologetic presence, Janelle Monáe shows that identity isn't about fitting into a box, it's about owning every beautiful part of who you are. Dominique Jackson doesn't just walk into a room, she owns it. Best known for her role as Electra Abundance in the groundbreaking series Pose, Dominique brought unapologetic power, grace, and vulnerability to a character that quickly became iconic. But her real-life story is just as powerful. Born in Tobago and raised in a strict religious environment, Dominique faced rejection, abuse, and homelessness after coming out as transgender and lesbian. But she refused to let the world define her. Through years of struggle, she found community in New York's ballroom scene, where chosen families lifted her up, and where she learned to stand tall in 6-inch heels and her truth. Dominique later became a model, actress, and fierce advocate for LGBTQ+ rights, especially for queer people of color. Openly lesbian and once married to a supportive partner, she has always embraced her identity without apology. Whether strutting on a runway or standing at a podium, Dominique isn't just telling her story, she's demanding space for others to tell theirs too. Lena Waithe doesn't just tell stories, she lives them. As a writer, producer, and actress, Lena made history as the first Black woman to win an Emmy for comedy writing, thanks to her groundbreaking Master of None episode, Thanksgiving. That story, based on Lena's own coming-out experience, struck a chord around the world. But her activism goes beyond the screen. Lena is unapologetically lesbian and uses her voice to fight for better representation of queer Black lives in Hollywood. She came out early in her career, determined to live openly and proudly. Through her hit series, The Chai, and her work behind the scenes, Lena champions characters and creators who often go unheard. She knows the power of seeing yourself on screen and the cost of invisibility. Lena often says that visibility is a form of activism, and by simply showing up as herself, in a fitted suit, fade tight, and swag unapologetic, she's helping redefine what queer Black excellence looks like. Lena isn't just making room for herself, she's building space for everyone. Before she became one of comedy's sharpest voices, Wanda Sykes kept one part of her life fiercely private until 2008, when she stunned fans by coming out during a rally in Las Vegas. It wasn't planned, it wasn't a press release, It was a moment of courage sparked by conviction. She told the crowd she was married to a woman, Alex Niedbalski, whom she had met 2 years earlier on a ferry ride. Wanda's decision to come out publicly was deeply personal. For years, she had kept her private life to herself, not out of shame, but for protection. But love gave her the strength to be visible. She and Alex married in 2008, and a year later, they welcomed twins, Olivia and Lucas. Today, Wanda uses her platform to advocate for LGBTQ+ rights, often blending humor with truth in the way only she can. Her voice reminds us that sometimes the boldest thing you can do is simply be yourself, and make people laugh while you're at it. With a filmography as powerful as her presence, Tessa Thompson has never shied away from challenging norms, on screen or in real life. In 2018, she made headlines not for a role, but for revealing a truth close to her heart. While she never officially confirmed a relationship with singer Janelle Monáe, the bond between them became a beacon for queer fans everywhere. From attending red carpets together to starring in Janelle's music video Dirty Computer, their closeness sparked hope and visibility. Tessa shared that her family's support gave her the courage to be open. She never felt the need to label her love publicly, but she also didn't want to hide it. For her, it wasn't about making a grand statement. It was about normalizing what should already be normal, love in all its forms. In choosing to live authentically while still guarding her privacy, Tessa shows that there's no single way to come out. There's just your way. And hers is strong, graceful, and unapologetically free. In the world of morning television, Robin Roberts stood as a beacon of trust and resilience. But it wasn't until 2013 that she shared one of her most personal stories, with quiet strength and heartfelt grace. In a heartfelt Facebook post, Robin came out as a lesbian and introduced the world to her partner, Amber Lane, a massage therapist she'd been with since 2005. It wasn't a spotlight moment. It was a thank you directed to the woman who stood by her during her battle with cancer. Robin had known her truth since 2003, but kept her personal life private, not out of fear, but out of respect for her boundaries. That changed when she realized her story could give others hope. Her relationship with Amber is built on trust, quiet love, and unwavering support. And while they don't share every detail with the public, their bond speaks volumes. Robin reminds us that sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones lived honestly, with grace, and in the arms of someone who never lets go. Their breakout role as Rue introduced them to the world, but it's Amandla Stenberg's unwavering honesty about identity and queerness that's made them a true voice of their generation. Amandla came out as bisexual in 2016 and later identified as non-binary and queer, using they, them pronouns. For Amandla, identity isn't a box, it's a spectrum. They've embraced every part of themselves with honesty and vulnerability, inspiring young fans to do the same. One of their most talked about relationships was with singer King Princess. Though their romance eventually ended, it became a beautiful example of queer love in the spotlight, tender, supportive, and authentic. Amandla has always used their platform to speak out on gender, race, and LGBTQ+ rights, unafraid to challenge the status quo. Their courage isn't just about who they love, it's about how they live. In a world that often pressures people to conform, Amandla dares to expand the definition of what it means to be human. And in doing so, they're changing the world, one truth at a time. Few life stories are as raw and redemptive as Felicia Pearson's. Long before she became Snoop on The Wire, she was navigating a world of violence, survival, and eventually, self-acceptance. Born into chaos, raised in the streets of Baltimore, and sentenced to prison for second-degree murder at just 14, her early years were defined by hardship. But Felicia refused to let her past write her future. Behind bars, she began reflecting, healing, and embracing her identity as a lesbian, a truth she once feared in a world that showed little mercy. After her release, Felicia got her big break when she was cast in The Wire. Not as an actress with training, but as a survivor with a story. Her gritty performance made her a breakout star, and her authenticity struck a chord. Felicia has since spoken openly about her sexuality and the difficulties of being gay in both the street and the spotlight. She's used her voice to advocate for others like her, those who've been silenced, ignored, or overlooked. Felicia's life is proof that redemption is real, and being queer is not a weakness. It's power. Long before she became a fan favorite on Orange is the New Black, Samira Wiley was quietly finding her voice, not just as an actress, but as a proud lesbian woman. Her love story began behind the scenes of the very show that made her famous. Lauren Morelli, a writer on OITNB, was married to a man when she started working on the series. But as she wrote stories for queer characters, she started recognizing her own truth. Eventually, Lauren ended her marriage and fell in love with Samira. At first, they kept their relationship private, building a quiet foundation rooted in trust and growth. In 2017, they tied the knot in a beautiful ceremony full of laughter and light. Samira once said that Lauren helped her find herself, and together, they've helped others do the same. Their relationship is more than romantic, it's revolutionary, proving that love blooms in the most unexpected places, and sometimes the script you're writing ends up writing you right back. For most of her career, Debrat was a mystery. With baggy jeans, big energy, and fierce rhymes, she broke into hip-hop's boys' club in the 90s and never looked back. But while her music was loud, her personal life was quiet, especially her sexuality. It wasn't until 2020, decades into her career, that Debrat came out publicly as a lesbian, sharing her love for entrepreneur Jessica Dupart with the world. The announcement wasn't just about a relationship, it was a declaration of freedom. Debrat revealed that fear had kept her in the closet, especially in an industry that rarely embraced queer voices. But Jessica made her feel seen, safe, and ready. Their love blossomed in the spotlight, and in 2022, they got married in a stunning ceremony filled with joy and unapologetic Black queer love. For Debrat, it wasn't about hiding anymore. It was about living and loving out loud. Defining Angel Hayes by a single label is impossible, and that's exactly the point. As a rapper and artist, Angel has built their career on defying boxes, and that extends to their identity. They identify as pansexual and agender, meaning their attraction isn't limited by gender, and they don't align with the traditional male-female binary. Their music is raw, emotional, and fiercely personal, mirroring the way they live. In 2014, Angel's relationship with model Ireland Baldwin turned heads. But what stood out wasn't just the romance, it was how openly and confidently they loved in a world still catching up. Angel has often spoken out against the media's obsession with labeling, reminding everyone that love is a feeling, not a formula. Their fearlessness has helped redefine what queerness can look like in hip-hop, pushing past stereotypes and into something beautifully real. Angel's truth isn't about acceptance, it's about revolution. Growing up in East London with Nigerian immigrant parents, Gina Yeshere knew early on that she was different, and not just because of her sense of humor. Her journey to self-acceptance was steeped in cultural expectations and silence, especially around sexuality. But Gina wasn't made to stay quiet. She came out as a lesbian and built a comedy career that celebrated her truth instead of hiding it. Her voice, bold, brash, and unapologetically Black and queer, earned her fans on both sides of the Atlantic. From stand-up stages to co-creating the sitcom Bob Hart's Abishola, Gina brings her identity into everything she does. She's been in a long-term relationship with Nina Rose Fisher, a college professor, and often shares sweet glimpses of their life on social media. While Gina doesn't spill every detail, her pride shines through. In a world where many still struggle to speak their truth, Gina makes sure hers is heard, with laughter leading the way. There's something magnetic about Kiersey Clemons. Whether she's on screen in indie hits like Dope or stealing scenes in blockbuster films, her energy feels effortless. But beyond the acting, Kiersey has quietly become a voice for queer visibility in Hollywood. She identifies as queer, embracing love without boundaries or boxes, and often speaks about the freedom that comes with living your truth. Her relationship with stunt performer Ebony De La Haye has brought her both joy and grounding. The couple keeps things mostly low-key, but occasionally offers fans glimpses into their life together. Sweet, playful, and full of mutual admiration. Kiersey has said that being open about her identity isn't about being brave. It's just about being honest. She knows how much it matters to see someone like her on screen, and off-screen too. Through both her work and her words, Kiersey reminds us that being queer isn't a side story, it's part of the main plot. Long before her name trended, Jessica Betts was doing what she loved, making music that spoke from the soul. But in 2020, her life changed forever when she married actress Niecy Nash in a surprise ceremony that sent shockwaves across Hollywood. Suddenly, Jessica wasn't just a soulful voice. She was part of a love story that shattered expectations and rewrote the rules. Jessica had been open about her sexuality for years, but kept her private life off the radar. That changed with Niecy. The two met as friends, but love came naturally, and when it did, it was undeniable. Their bond became a symbol of unexpected, unfiltered love. Jessica stood by Niecy not just as a partner, but as a force of joy and support. Their wedding wasn't just a celebration, it was a statement that love has no template, no boundaries, and no need for approval. With her guitar in hand and Niecy by her side, Jessica Betts sings not just of love, but of freedom. In the fashion world, where conformity often rules, Asmarie Livingston carved out a space that was entirely her own. With her androgynous beauty, bold tattoos, and powerful presence, she turned heads on America's Next Top Model, but never compromised who she was. Off the runway, Asmarie made headlines when she began dating Raven Simonet, and together they became one of the most visible black lesbian couples in Hollywood at the time. Asmarie has always been unapologetic about her identity. As a lesbian, she embraced her truth early and carried it with pride, especially in spaces that weren't always welcoming. Her look defies gender norms, and her confidence challenges outdated beauty standards. Beyond modeling, she's also made moves in music and acting, proving she's more than a pretty face. She's a powerhouse. While her relationship with Raven eventually ended, it left a mark. Asmarie remains a fierce symbol of authenticity, showing young queer people that you don't have to fit in to stand out. Tracy Chapman rarely seeks the spotlight, yet her voice has echoed through generations. Known for soul-stirring hits like Fast Car and Talkin' About a Revolution, Tracy has always let her music do the talking. But behind the scenes, she's lived as quietly and authentically as possible. In the mid-1990s, she was in a discreet yet meaningful relationship with author Alice Walker, best known for The Color Purple. While neither spoke publicly about their romance at the time, it later became a defining story for many in the queer black community, proof that love could bloom even when the world wasn't ready for it. Tracy has never been loud about her sexuality, but her presence has always been powerful. Through lyrics that explore struggle, hope, and freedom, she's become a quiet champion for justice and a voice for the unheard. Tracy may not give many interviews, but with every note she sings, she reminds us what it means to live honestly, even in silence. Standing at 6'9", Brittney Griner is a towering figure in every sense of the word. As one of the most dominant players in WNBA history, she's shattered records and barriers. In 2013, Brittney came out as a lesbian just as she was being drafted first overall into the league. For many, it was a bold move, but for Brittney, it was just being real. She's been a fierce advocate for LGBTQ+ inclusion in sports, where queer athletes have often been forced to hide. Off the court, her personal life has been under intense scrutiny, especially following her legal troubles in Russia. But through every challenge, Brittney has stayed true to herself, fighting not just for her freedom, but for her right to love openly. Her marriage to Cherelle Griner has been a source of strength and stability, especially during the most difficult times. Brittney doesn't just play for wins, she plays for visibility, for justice, and for every young queer person who dreams of standing tall. Visibility isn't just about being seen, it's about being known. And Jessica Nicole has quietly built a career where her identity as a proud lesbian woman is not just present, but powerful. Best known for her role as Astrid in Fringe, Jessica has always brought warmth, intelligence, and authenticity to her characters. But off-screen, her real-life love story might be even more beautiful than the ones she acts out. She's been married to her partner, artist Claire Savage, since 2013. Their relationship began long before Jessica rose to public fame, and it's built on years of trust, creativity, and shared values. Claire is a virtual reality artist, and Jessica often gushes about her wife's talent with quiet pride. Unlike many in Hollywood, Jessica doesn't overshare, but she doesn't hide either. She lives her truth in soft strength, reminding us that sometimes the most powerful form of representation isn't loud. It's simply being there, living fully and loving freely. Michelle Ndegeocello didn't just help shape neo soul, she gave it its voice. A bass-playing genre-bending icon, Michelle emerged in the 1990s as a fiercely original artist with something to say. She was also one of the first high-profile black musicians to be openly lesbian, unafraid to express queer love in her lyrics long before it was considered marketable. Her music speaks to the complexities of identity, racial, sexual, spiritual, and her refusal to be boxed in made her a trailblazer. While others chased charts, Michelle chased truth. Her 1993 debut Plantation Lullabies shook the industry with its unapologetic honesty, and every album since has added another layer to her legacy. She's never chased the spotlight, but her work has earned it. Nominated for multiple Grammys and revered by generations of artists. In every note, Michelle carries her queerness not as a gimmick, but as a heartbeat. She didn't just open doors, she broke them down with bass lines and boldness. Poet, activist, truth-teller. Stacey Ann Chin is all of these, and more. Born in Jamaica and raised in hardship, she came out as a lesbian in a society that punished difference. But instead of hiding, she roared. Her spoken word performances are fiery, raw, and unforgettable, and she's used her voice to speak out on gender, race, and queerness for decades. In New York's slam poetry scene, she became a force of nature, unapologetically feminist, relentlessly intersectional, and always bold. Stacey Ann never asks for space. She takes it. Her work has been featured on Broadway and HBO, and her memoir, The Other Side of Paradise, details her harrowing yet empowering journey of survival and self-acceptance. She is also a single mom by choice, raising her daughter as fiercely as she lives her truth. In a world that still tries to silence queer black women, Stacey Ann Chin reminds us, silence is not an option, and neither is shame. Audiences first met Rutina Wesley as Tara in True Blood. Tough, vulnerable, unforgettable. But it's off-screen where she's made an equally powerful impact. In 2017, Rutina shared her engagement to Chef Shonda, and while the relationship ultimately didn't last, the announcement marked a significant moment. She had never previously spoken publicly about her sexuality, and fans were stunned, in the best way. Rutina's decision to share that part of her life came with joy, not apology. She posted about her love openly and beautifully, writing, "I found the one whom my soul loves." It was a reminder that queerness isn't just about identity, it's about celebration. As the lead in Queen Sugar, Rutina has also embraced stories that reflect deep emotional truths, on screen and off. She continues to be a source of pride for queer black women navigating visibility in the spotlight. With quiet power, Rutina reminds us, your truth doesn't need approval to be beautiful. When Ariana DeBose danced across the screen in West Side Story, she didn't just steal scenes, she made history. In 2022, she became the first queer Afro-Latina to win an Oscar for acting, and she did it with style, grace, and a message. "I am an openly queer woman of color," she said on stage, "and I'm here." It was more than a thank you speech, it was a revolution in heels. Ariana first came out in 2015, and since then, she's used every spotlight to uplift her community. She's loud about her love for girlfriend Sue Maku, a costume designer, and equally passionate about creating space for queer youth in theater and film. Whether hosting award shows or starring in musicals, Ariana brings all of herself to the stage, never filtering her truth to fit the mold. She's proof that you don't have to shrink to succeed. In fact, you shine brightest when you let every part of yourself be seen. Not everyone turns pain into poetry, but Dee Reese did. As the acclaimed director behind Pariah and Mudbound, she's become one of Hollywood's most powerful queer black voices. But her path here wasn't easy. Growing up in Tennessee, Dee struggled with accepting her sexuality in a religious family that tried to pray it away. When she came out as a lesbian, her parents didn't embrace her. They pushed back, sending Bible verses instead of love. But Dee stood firm. She took that rejection and turned it into raw, beautiful storytelling. Pariah, her semi-autobiographical debut, told the story of a young black girl grappling with her identity, a story too rarely told, and even more rarely told by someone who lived it. The film became a landmark in queer cinema. In her personal life, Dee later found love and healing with writer Sarah M. Broom. The two married and built a life rooted in creativity and mutual respect. Dee Rees isn't just a director, she's a truth teller. And in telling her own, she's helped so many others find theirs. Now you've seen the faces, heard the stories, and felt the pride. These aren't just stars, they're legends living their truth on their own terms. If one of these women inspired you today, hit that like button, share the love in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed for more bold, beautiful voices. They were the kings of the silver screen, smooth-talking, heart-stealing, and larger than life. But behind the bright lights and million-dollar smiles, they were hiding secrets that Hollywood never wanted you to know. They ruled the golden age of Hollywood, but behind closed doors, they were living double lives. Secret lovers, studio cover-ups, forbidden affairs that could ruin everything. These are the hidden truths Tinseltown tried to bury. Top 15 gay closet cases of Hollywood's golden age. And trust us, you won't see these legends the same way again. Anthony Perkins will forever be remembered as Norman Bates, the boyish, haunted motel owner who shocked the world in Psycho. But behind that chilling performance was a man grappling with fears far more personal. Despite being married with 2 children, Perkins spent much of his life in the closet, carefully navigating Hollywood's unwritten rules. One of his most talked about relationships was with fellow actor Tab Hunter, though the romance remained hidden in the shadows of industry expectations. In Split Image, biographer Charles Weinkauf explored Perkins' secret world, casual encounters in Times Square, publicity dates with actresses, and a life lived behind a carefully constructed mask. Like so many actors of his time, Perkins was forced to hide his truth in order to survive. Coming out would have meant career suicide, and Perkins was determined to protect the roles, reputation, and legacy he'd worked so hard to build. Even in his final years, secrecy clung to him. When the National Enquirer broke the news of his battle with AIDS in 1990, it stunned fans and insiders alike. Perkins passed away in 1992, leaving behind a wife, 2 sons, and a legacy layered with brilliance, vulnerability, and the silent cost of fame. In the end, the real horror wasn't just in Psycho. It was in the pain of not being allowed to live fully and openly. Richard Pryor, comedy's wild genius and the Brando bombshell. In February 2018, headlines lit up when Jennifer Pryor, widow of the legendary comedian Richard Pryor, confirmed a rumor that shocked even longtime fans. Richard had shared an intimate affair with none other than Marlon Brando during the wild, experimental days of the 1970s. The revelation came after music mogul Quincy Jones dropped Brando's name and several others during a bombshell interview with Vulture, claiming Brando would sleep with anything, including James Baldwin, Marvin Gaye, and Richard Pryor. The public reaction was swift, stunned, and curious. But Jennifer didn't flinch. She backed the claim wholeheartedly, saying Richard had never hidden his sexuality from close friends and had even documented his experiences with men in his personal diaries. Speaking to TMZ, she added a bit of levity, reflecting the uninhibited spirit of the decade. It was the 70s. Drugs were still good, especially Quaaludes. If you did enough cocaine, you'd a radiator and send it flowers in the morning. Her words were raw, humorous, and authentic, just like Richard himself. The Pryors' love story was anything but conventional. They married in the early 1980s, divorced, then rekindled their bond in 2001, staying together until Richard's death in 2005. Through chaos, comedy, addiction, and fame, their connection endured. It wasn't about perfection, it was about understanding. And in a world quick to judge, only 2 people who truly knew and accepted each other could make a love. A silent era icon caught in a tragic misjudgment. In the roaring 1920s, Ramon Novarro wasn't just a movie star. He was a fantasy come to life. With his dark eyes and irresistible charm, he became one of Hollywood's earliest sex symbols, capturing hearts in silent films like Ben-Hur. But behind the fame and fortune was a deeply private man who lived cautiously in a world that punished queerness with silence and shame. By the late 1960s, Navarro had stepped away from the spotlight, enjoying a quiet life in Los Angeles. But that peace shattered one October night in 1968 when two young men entered his home under false pretenses. Believing wild rumors that Navarro had stashed thousands inside a decorative crucifix, they confronted him in what would become one of the most haunting scandals in Hollywood's hidden queer history. The media spun the story with lurid headlines, painting the tragedy as a cautionary tale about desire and deception. But those who knew Navarro remembered a trailblazing performer, a gentleman, and a man whose legacy deserved better than the way it was rewritten in the tabloids. His story stands as a chilling reminder of how quickly admiration can turn to exploitation in a world that refuses to see the full humanity behind the fame. The rebel who never found peace. Sal Mineo burst onto the scene as the sensitive, soulful Plato in Rebel Without a Cause, earning an Oscar nomination at just 17. With his boyish charm and emotional depth, he quickly became a teen idol. But Hollywood had no roadmap for a young man who didn't fit the mold, especially one who lived his truth quietly as a gay actor. As the 1960s progressed, the offers slowed. Mineo struggled to escape typecasting and to find roles that matched his talent. Off-screen, he began to live more openly in theater and among close circles, but mainstream acceptance was still out of reach. His sexuality, though never officially declared, was widely known behind closed doors. Just another reason Tinseltown turned its back. Then, in 1976, Sal Mineo lost his life during a sudden and violent incident near his Los Angeles apartment. Authorities ruled out personal motives, but the media still leaned into sensationalism, stirring up speculation around his private life. His untimely passing became a dark footnote in Hollywood history, a heartbreaking symbol of how fame and difference could never fully protect someone from society's shadows. Love behind the curtain. To millions, Raymond Burr was Perry Mason, stoic, brilliant, unstoppable. But off-camera, he was living a life far more fragile and hidden. In an era when being openly gay could end a career overnight, Burr crafted a carefully controlled image. After a brief marriage in 1948, he never remarried. Instead, he invented a tragic backstory, claiming to have lost both a wife and a son, to deflect attention from his private life. In 1960, Burr met actor Robert Benavides on the set of Perry Mason. Their connection grew into a 35-year relationship, known only to close friends. Publicly, Benavides was his business partner, but privately, they built a quiet life together, buying land, running a vineyard, and sharing a love few ever knew existed. Burr even slept at the studio to make their time together appear professional. Though he kept his truth hidden, those around him saw the real Raymond, a kind, thoughtful man who protected the person he loved. In a time of silence, Burr found a way to live with quiet pride, and that in itself was a quiet act of courage. The king of Hollywood's hidden desires. Clark Gable may have defined masculinity on screen, but his off-screen life was far more layered. Early in his career, he married acting coach Josephine Dillon, a union he later said was never consummated. Though Gable would marry 5 times and father 2 children, whispers about his sexuality followed him for decades. While publicly chasing starlets, rumors swirled that he may have engaged in same-sex encounters, possibly to climb the Hollywood ladder. One notable story ties Gable to openly gay actor William Haynes. During the filming of Gone with the Wind, a party guest joked about Gable being one of Billy's old tricks. Enraged, Gable reportedly refused to return to set until director George Cukor, a friend of Haynes, was replaced. Earlier, Gable was rumored to have been romantically involved with actor Earl Larimore in a traveling troupe and shared a close bond with Rod LaRock during Forbidden Paradise. Biographer David Brett labeled him bisexual, citing relationships with both men and women. In later years, journalist Ben Maddox became a trusted confidant, helping guard Gable's private life. Despite the secrets, Gable truly loved Carole Lombard. And in his final film, The Misfits, he bonded deeply with gay co-star Montgomery Clift, 2 legends, each carrying their own quiet truth. Hollywood's golden boy and the love that dared not speak, Cary Grant was the embodiment of charm. Smooth, elegant, and every bit the silver screen's leading man. But behind the tailored suits and polished smile was a life far more layered than Hollywood ever dared admit. In 1932, Grant met actor Randolph Scott on the set of Hot Saturday, and what followed was more than friendship. For 12 years, they shared a home known affectionately as Bachelor Hall, posing for fan magazines and looking every bit like a couple, handsome, happy, and inseparable. Though the studios worked overtime to market Grant as a dashing ladies' man, rumors about his sexuality quietly swirled. In a rare and revealing 1986 interview with Barbara Walters, Grant responded to years of speculation by saying, "Everyone says I'm gay, and I guess I am, but I don't really know." It was a moment of unexpected vulnerability, especially in an era still uncomfortable with sexual fluidity. Biographers and modern commentators have pointed to Grant and Scott's enduring bond as more than just coincidence, calling it one of old Hollywood's most convincing love stories. Later in life, Grant seemed less interested in labels and more focused on being true to himself. Whether gay, straight, or somewhere in between, he hoped to be remembered not for the rumors, but for the man he truly was. And perhaps that's the most Hollywood thing of all, not the image, but the truth that lies just beneath it. The tragic rebel who lived quietly in his truth. Montgomery Clift was the kind of actor who redefined masculinity in Hollywood. Sensitive, intense, and heartbreakingly beautiful. With 4 Oscar nominations and a magnetic screen presence, he was a star who never quite fit the mold. Unlike many of his Hollywood peers, Clift lived in New York, far from the studio-controlled bubble, carefully guarding his private life. Though often linked to Elizabeth Taylor, insiders knew that his relationships weren't entirely straightforward. Taylor was his closest confidant, and even Debbie Reynolds once noted that Monty had both a boyfriend and a girlfriend. But the intimacy between him and Liz was undeniable. Clift never publicly labeled his sexual orientation, but those around him knew. His mother, in a casual conversation with his brother Brooks, confirmed that Monty had identified as gay since he was 12 or 13. Friends like Jack Larson described him as carefree, funny, and unabashedly gay. In films like Red River, he flirted with subtext, trading hints with John Ireland in scenes that pushed the boundaries of their era. Clift didn't hide, he simply lived life on his own terms. He rejected Hollywood expectations, opting for single-film deals, rewriting his lines, and retreating to a small Manhattan apartment filled with books instead of glamour. While others created facades, Clift remained raw and authentic. He didn't chase fame, he let it chase him. And in doing so, he became one of the most quietly defiant figures of Hollywood's golden age. The king of Hollywood, who lived a carefully crafted lie. To the world, Rock Hudson was the embodiment of American masculinity. Broad-shouldered, effortlessly charming, and always the leading man. On screen, he romanced the most beautiful women with ease. But off-screen, he carried a secret that Hollywood refused to accept. Rock Hudson was gay, something he was forced to hide behind studio-orchestrated dates and a short-lived marriage designed to silence whispers and protect box office profits. For decades, he lived behind a polished image, smiling for the cameras while denying his truth. It wasn't until 1985, when Hudson's battle with AIDS became public, that the illusion finally cracked. The revelation stunned the world and shattered the myth of Hollywood's invincibility. Fans were heartbroken, the industry was shaken. In the aftermath, Hudson became more than a movie star. He became a symbol of how deeply the system demanded conformity, even at the cost of one's soul. And in his final chapter, he did what he was never allowed to do in life. He told the truth and forced the world to face it. The enigma behind the spotlight. Spencer Tracy was the kind of actor who made everything look effortless. With 2 Oscars and a career spanning decades, he was the gold standard in old Hollywood. But off-screen, he was far more complicated. A devout Catholic, Tracy remained legally married to Louise Treadwell despite a long estrangement. Their marriage produced 2 children, but they never divorced, a decision often tied to his faith. Meanwhile, rumors swirled about Tracy's sexuality. with whispers of romantic entanglements not just with starlets like Ingrid Bergman and Hedy Lamarr, but also with men. The most persistent speculation centered on a rumored long-term relationship with actor John Derek, and many questioned whether his famous connection with Katharine Hepburn was more studio strategy than true romance. In a Vanity Fair article, Hollywood insider Richard Gully casually hinted at Tracy's fluidity, igniting fresh debate. Hepburn reportedly bristled at the claim, and Tracy's daughter called it absurd. But the question lingered. Despite bouts of deep depression and a battle with alcoholism that once led him to trash a film set, Tracy remained magnetic on screen. As Humphrey Bogart once said, "Spence is the best we have, because you don't see the mechanism at work." Maybe that's true off-screen too. Tracy's greatest role may have been hiding the parts of himself Hollywood never allowed him to show. The rebel who kept us guessing. James Dean burned bright and fast, gone at just 24, but immortalized forever. With his smoldering looks and tortured soul, he became the face of youthful rebellion. While millions mourned the loss of a rising legend, behind the icon was a man whose personal life has remained steeped in mystery. Dean had relationships with women like Pier Angeli and Ursula Andress, but whispers of his attraction to men were just as persistent. When asked about his sexuality, Dean once replied, "No, I'm not a homosexual, but I'm also not going to go through life with one hand tied behind my back." Those words only deepened the intrigue. His close friend and former roommate, William Bast, later admitted to intimate encounters with Dean, describing their bond as complex and emotionally intense. Author Jonathan Gilmour made similar claims, and director Nicholas Ray referred to Dean as bisexual. Even Elizabeth Taylor said Dean once confided in her about being sexually abused by a priest after his mother died, adding another layer to his deeply private struggles. Though his sexuality was never publicly defined, his legacy as a gay icon endures. The Gay Times once named him the greatest male gay icon of all time. And maybe that's fitting, for a man who lived like a question mark and passed away a legend. The alpha icon who defied every label. Marlon Brando wasn't just a movie star, he was a force. Charismatic, brooding, and raw, he shattered Hollywood norms both on and off the screen. While he married 3 times and fathered numerous children, rumors about his bisexuality have followed him for decades. From whispers of an S&M affair with James Dean to intimate friendships with Montgomery Clift, Cary Grant, and Sir John Gielgud, Brando's private life was as layered as his most iconic roles. In a 1976 interview, Brando casually confirmed what many had long suspected, saying, "Like a large number of men, I too have had homosexual experiences, and I am not ashamed." Years later, Quincy Jones dropped a bombshell, claiming Brando and comedian Richard Pryor had been lovers, a claim Pryor's widow, Jennifer Lee, boldly confirmed. Other accounts describe Brando's dynamic with Dean as emotionally detached, more about power and dominance than love. But perhaps the most meaningful bond was with author James Baldwin. In a rare 1990 interview, Brando said, "If you ask me what was important or lasting, it would have to be that I walked and dreamed next to a man named James Baldwin." For a man who broke every rule, Brando's greatest role might have been living life on his own fearless terms, messy, magnetic, and unapologetically fluid. The director behind the curtain, George Cukor, was the man behind some of Hollywood's most iconic classics: My Fair Lady, The Philadelphia Story, A Star is Born. His genius with dialogue and complex female characters made him a favorite among stars. But behind the camera, Cukor lived a double life. As an openly gay man in private circles, he hosted legendary gatherings at his Hollywood Hills home, filled with actors and artists who couldn't live their truth publicly. The industry knew, but never acknowledged. Studio heads kept Cukor in a creative box, praising his work while pretending not to see the truth they feared. When he was unexpectedly fired from directing Gone with the Wind, rumors swirled that it wasn't creative differences, but his identity that got in the way. He never spoke out. He didn't need to. Cukor outlasted the machine that tried to shrink him. He built a career on style, subtext, and subtle defiance. And while his name may not always lead with scandal, his legacy quietly celebrates a man who directed more than films. He directed a life on his own terms, in a world that refused to see him. The laugh track to a lonely truth. Paul Lynde made America laugh. His razor-sharp wit and flamboyant charm lit up television screens in shows like Bewitched and Hollywood Squares. With a voice full of mischief and a face built for punchlines, he became a household name. But while the public adored the character, they were never allowed to know the man behind it. In a time when queerness was played for laughs but punished in real life, Lynde walked a tightrope. He never officially came out, but his sexuality was an open secret in the industry. Off-screen, he wrestled with isolation, battling inner demons in a world that refused to make space for vulnerability. The laughter he gave to millions became a mask he wore a little too well. Despite the cracks in his personal life, Lynde never stopped performing. His comedic timing was unmatched, his presence unforgettable. But behind every joke was a man searching for freedom he was never allowed to claim. In the end, Paul Lynde's story wasn't just about laughter, it was about the silence in between. The genius who danced around the truth. Cole Porter wrote the soundtrack of sophistication. From Anything Goes to Night and Day, his melodies lit up Broadway and enchanted the silver screen. His lyrics dripped with elegance, wit, and hidden longing. Porter was a gay man in a world that preferred its artists brilliant but discreet, and so he obliged, marrying a wealthy socialite in a union built more on survival than romance. Within elite circles, Porter's sexuality was known but never discussed. He surrounded himself with beauty, indulged in lavish parties, and lived a life of champagne secrets. But between the lines of his songs, those clever, aching lyrics, was a man speaking truth to anyone willing to listen closely. Even after a tragic accident left him in chronic pain, Porter never stopped writing. He poured heartache, desire, and rebellion into every verse. He may have danced around the truth in public, but in his music, he told the whole story. Cole Porter didn't just compose hits, he composed himself into history, note by note, word by word. And there it is, Hollywood's hidden scandals finally brought into the light. Shocking revelations, forbidden passions, and secret struggles. But we've only just scratched the surface. Who shocked you the most? Is there another hidden star you're dying to uncover? Let us know in the comments below. Don't leave without hitting subscribe and ringing that bell. Join LGBTQ+ vibes for more secrets Hollywood never wanted you to know. Until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and keep chasing the truth. They were stars who had it all. Talent, fame, and secrets too heavy to carry sober. In a world that forced them to hide their truth, alcohol became their escape and their undoing. This is the story of gay legends in Hollywood who lost themselves one drink at a time. Welcome to Gay Hollywood Legends Destroyed by Alcohol. Gay Secret. Peter Lawford wasn't just a movie star, he was Hollywood royalty. A suave English actor, a member of the Rat Pack, and the brother-in-law of President John F. Kennedy. But beyond the tuxedos and celebrity circles, Lawford's name often surfaced in hushed rumors about his private life. Whispers that he may have loved outside the lines expected of leading men. Whether truth or speculation, Lawford lived under pressure. And like many men of his era who feared their truth might cost them everything, he turned to alcohol for comfort. At first, it was just part of the party. The glitz, the late nights with Sinatra and Dean Martin. But slowly the drinking stopped being celebration and started being escape. Escape from scrutiny, loneliness, and the weight of secrets that never left the room. As the years passed, the effects piled on. His career began to slip, not overnight, but scene by scene. Directors complained of missed cues and slurred lines. Friends noticed he was distant, unpredictable, often spiraling. His marriage to Patricia Kennedy fell apart, and with it much of the stability he once clung to. The Rat Pack moved on. Hollywood moved on. And Peter, increasingly dependent on alcohol, found himself stuck in the shadows of his own legend. He tried to climb back, taking guest roles, seeking help. But the years of drinking had worn down his body and spirit. The twinkle in his eye dimmed, the energy in his voice dulled. Once adored by millions, Lawford spent his final years quietly, away from the spotlight, quietly enduring the toll of a life spent running, not just from failure, but possibly from a truth he was never allowed to say out loud. By the time her name was etched into Broadway history, Tallulah Bankhead was already drinking more than she was performing. Sharp-tongued, unfiltered, and unapologetically bold, she was the kind of woman who lit up a room and often cleared it out just as fast. But beneath the charisma and chaos was a lifelong battle with alcohol that chipped away at her talent, her health, and ultimately her grip on reality. Bankhead didn't sip. She devoured. Gin, whiskey, champagne. It didn't matter. If it burned going down, she welcomed it. In her prime, she drank before curtain calls, during rehearsals, even in between scenes. She wore her intoxication like a second skin, slurring her lines with such flair that audiences sometimes couldn't tell where the performance ended and the real Tallulah began. But backstage, it was different. Friends watched her unravel, her moods swinging from euphoria to despair, her once brilliant mind fogged by excess. She was open about her bisexuality in an era that begged for secrets. But while she dared to speak her truth, she couldn't outrun the shadows. Relying on booze to armor herself from judgment and loneliness, Tallulah pushed everyone and everything away. Her health began to falter. Her voice, once sultry and commanding, turned raspy and brittle. She lost roles, alienated producers, and fell into long periods of isolation. But still, she drank. By the 1960s, Bankhead was a ghost of her former self. Thin, exhausted, and emotionally frayed. The glamorous parties turned into solitary nights with a bottle and a memory of who she used to be. She had outlived many of her contemporaries, but she was no longer truly living. Her story faded quietly, leaving behind a legend wrapped in wit, rebellion, and sorrow soaked in alcohol. Though Errol Flynn was never publicly out, his name often appeared in hushed rumors, whispers of secret liaisons, gender-defying affairs, and a charm that didn't always choose sides. He may not have claimed a label, but the mystery surrounding his private life only added to the allure and the pressure. Like many in Hollywood's golden age, Flynn lived under intense scrutiny. And to cope with it, he turned to alcohol. Not as a party favor, but as a shield. Flynn's drinking became notorious. He didn't hide it. He flaunted it. From yachts to hotel suites, he drank through the nights and rolled onto sets in the morning with bloodshot eyes and the bravado of someone who thought the rules didn't apply. But they did. And while the camera still adored him, the man behind the roles was slowly unraveling. The consequences showed fast. His acting, once effortless, began to stumble. Directors grew impatient. Crews whispered behind the scenes. His health spiraled. The once sculpted frame now puffy, his movements sluggish, his memory unreliable. The man who'd once been the face of adventure had become a liability. Then came the lawsuits, the scandals, and more rumors. Some about his love life, others about his increasingly erratic behavior. Rather than address them, Flynn drank harder. Friends drifted, studios backed away, and he leaned even further into the bottle, using it to drown out the noise, the fear, and the whispers that never quite stopped. By his early 50s, the damage was done. His body had taken too much for too long. He spent his final years far removed from the spotlight, his legacy still legendary, but his life reduced to cautionary tales and what-ifs. Errol Flynn didn't just fall from fame, he faded, quietly and slowly, behind the blur of scandal and the haze of too many empty glasses. By the time she reached her 40s, Judy Garland's voice, once radiant enough to lift a nation, had grown hoarse, shaky, and drowned in alcohol. For someone who had captivated millions as Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, the cruel irony was this: no yellow brick road could lead her out of the darkness she lived in. And as the spotlight dimmed, the bottle became the only thing she could rely on. Garland's struggle with substances began shockingly early. As a teenage star, studio executives gave her pills to stay awake, pills to sleep, and endless pressure to be perfect. When alcohol entered the mix, it wasn't just recreational, it was therapeutic. It dulled the anxiety, the body image torment, the relentless expectations. Over time, drinking went from an escape to a requirement. She couldn't perform without it. She could barely function at all without it. Concerts were missed. Performances ended in tears. Public meltdowns became tabloid fodder. Behind the curtains, Judy's life was a storm of failed marriages, custody battles, and nights spent sobbing with a drink in hand. And through it all, she carried the weight of being a queer icon, someone adored by the LGBTQ+ community, but never allowed to fully rest, to breathe, to fall apart in peace. In her final years, Garland struggled to hold on to stability. Gigs became scarcer, friends fewer. Her physical health declined, her finances crumbled, and the bottle never left her side. Though she gave her all on stage, offstage she was exhausted, emotionally, mentally, and physically. The woman who once lit up the world slowly faded, not in a scandal, but in sorrow. When her journey came to an end at just 47, the headlines focused on the drama. But those who truly knew Judy saw the deeper truth. It wasn't just one night or one mistake. It was decades of emotional exhaustion, endless demands, and a lifelong attempt to quiet the pain through a glass. Judy Garland didn't simply fall. She was pushed, pulled, and poured into a life that never truly let her rest. By the end, Truman Capote's voice slurred more than it charmed. His sentences ran off track, and his wit, once razor-sharp, dulled into drunken rambles. Alcohol didn't just kill Capote slowly, it erased the genius that once captivated a generation. The man who wrote Breakfast at Tiffany's and In Cold Blood spent his final years spiraling into public meltdowns, blackouts, and humiliations, all soaked in gin and desperation. Capote was never shy about being gay in a time when that boldness could end careers. But what truly haunted him was the emptiness that came after fame, and alcohol filled that void. It started with champagne at elite parties and ended with vodka in a plastic cup at strangers' homes. His dependency grew monstrous. He drank on talk shows, insulted friends, burned bridges, and alienated the very social circles he once ruled. He didn't just fall from grace, he stumbled, bottle in hand, through every rung of the ladder on his way down. Friends begged him to sober up. Rehab stints were brief and ineffective. Capote would leave early, claiming sobriety was boring. But the truth was, he couldn't write without drinking, and he couldn't live without writing. The pressure of being brilliant, of staying relevant, crushed him. In his final public appearances, he was bloated, incoherent, and visibly ill. His once sparkling mind was dulled by decades of intoxication. In 1984, at just 59 years old, Capote died of liver disease and drug intoxication in the guest room of a friend's house. The coroner's report was blunt, a lethal combination of barbiturates, tranquilizers, and alcohol. But the real cause was a life spent trying to outrun rejection, loneliness, and the cruel edge of fame. Truman Capote didn't just die because he drank. He drank because it was the only thing left that still listened. Before he was 40, alcohol had already done what critics and scandals couldn't. It dismantled one of Hollywood's brightest stars from the inside out. For Montgomery Clift, liquor wasn't just a habit. It became a slow-burning poison that corroded his body, clouded his mind, and shattered the career he built with blood and brilliance. After a horrific car crash in 1956 left his face permanently disfigured, Clift turned fully to alcohol to numb the pain, both physical and emotional. The aftermath of the accident became a turning point. His drinking escalated from casual to destructive. Once known for his discipline on set, he grew erratic, incoherent, and unreliable. Studios hesitated to cast him, and those who did often regretted it. His memory deteriorated, his mood swung violently, and scenes that once took a single take now dragged into dozens. But the bottle wasn't just killing his career, it was eating away at his soul. Clift drank to forget that he was living a lie, trapped in a system that forced gay men like him into the shadows. His sexuality was a secret too dangerous to voice, and alcohol became his only escape from the suffocating double life. Friends watched him spiral, unable to pull him back. He refused rehab, avoided help, and drifted further from reality. In 1966, his body gave out. Officially, it was a heart attack. Unofficially, it was the years of self-destruction. Whiskey-soaked nights, drug-fueled mornings, and a mind tormented by fear and shame that ended Montgomery Clift's life at just 45. One of the most gifted actors of his time, reduced to a cautionary tale of what happens when the world refuses to let someone live and the bottle becomes the only way to breathe. By the time Tennessee Williams reached his 60s, he could barely form a sentence without slurring it. His hands trembled, his thoughts tangled, and the typewriter, once his weapon of choice, now sat quiet beneath layers of dust and empty bottles. Alcohol didn't just dull Williams' brilliance, it strangled it, slowly and unapologetically. The man who gave us A Streetcar Named Desire and Cat on a Hot Tin Roof had been fighting demons long before the curtain ever rose. A gay man in a conservative America, Williams endured a life of repression, heartbreak, and shame. But instead of facing those wounds head-on, he reached for the nearest escape, a bottle of whiskey, a glass of wine, whatever would hush the voices that haunted him. The success of his early plays gave him money and access, and he used both to chase oblivion. What began as a creative crutch became a crutch for living. He started drinking before breakfast, hiding liquor in drawers and under beds. His speeches at award shows turned into slurred rants. Directors and actors once eager to work with him grew hesitant. His plays flopped, his health deteriorated, and the press mocked his decline with cruel delight. He tried rehab, prayer, even exorcisms. None of it stuck. Williams believed suffering was necessary for great art, but alcohol turned that suffering into a prison. By the 1980s, he was frail, isolated, and mentally fraying. His once powerful imagination dissolved into paranoia and confusion. Yet the bottle stayed close, a cruel companion he could never leave. In 1983, at age 71, Tennessee Williams was found dead in his hotel room. Official reports say he choked on a pill bottle cap. But everyone who knew him understood. It was years of alcohol abuse, depression, and emotional ruin that led to that quiet, undignified end. He wrote about broken people, maybe because he was one. And in the end, not even genius could save him from himself. For years, Rock Hudson was the definition of Hollywood masculinity. Tall, chiseled, charming. But behind that square-jawed image was a man slowly unraveling, quietly leaning on alcohol as the only friend who wouldn't betray him. While audiences saw him as the picture of health and charisma, the truth was far more fragile. Hudson's relationship with alcohol was no secret to those closest to him. He drank to soften the loneliness, to silence the truth he could never speak aloud in public. As one of the most bankable stars of his era, he couldn't afford to be openly gay in a world that idolized him as the romantic hero. So he swallowed his truth and chased it down with scotch. Over time, the alcohol began to show. On set, he grew less reliable, sometimes arriving late, other times forgetting lines or slurring them during filming. Friends noticed his mood swings and growing detachment. But few dared to question him. Hudson was, after all, Hollywood royalty. And like many in his position, he believed he could drink away the weight of his secret. The years of drinking took their toll. His liver weakened, his energy declined, and his once vibrant presence began to dim. Still, he kept up the facade, even as his body sent warning signs. When he was later diagnosed with the devastating illness, it wasn't just the virus that wore him down. It was decades of emotional isolation and physical neglect that had already left him depleted. In his final years, Hudson lived far from the spotlight that once adored him. The sparkle had faded, and the silence became louder than applause. He slipped away in quiet dignity, far from the grand roles that once defined him. Behind the legacy was a man who never got to live freely, and who tried to ease that ache, one drink at a time. Long before the world understood the term internalized shame, Anthony Perkins was living it, quietly, painfully, and with a glass in hand. Best known for his chilling performance as Norman Bates in Psycho, Perkins was more than a character actor. He was a man walking a tightrope between fear and fame, and the higher his star rose, the more he leaned on alcohol to steady himself. For Perkins, drinking was never about pleasure, it was survival. He was a deeply private man in an industry built on exposure, a gay actor at a time when being honest could mean the end of everything. So he played the part, the romantic lead, the mysterious heartthrob, the husband. But off camera, the pressure to suppress who he was led him into the arms of alcohol, a quiet companion that dulled the anxiety and helped him face a world that demanded lies. Over time, the dependence crept in. He began drinking before auditions, before interviews, before scenes. Colleagues noticed a change. His energy dimmed, his presence more withdrawn, his movements slower. Some chalked it up to age or the weight of fame. Few knew he was wrestling with something far deeper than stress. Relying on liquor to feel normal soon turned into needing it to function at all. Perkins never had a public downfall, but those who knew him understood that his sparkle had been quietly fading. Years of drinking took a toll on his health and mental state. Though he married and had children, there was always a shadow, a part of him that never came out from hiding. And the longer it stayed buried, the more the bottle filled the space. In his final years, Perkins faced a serious illness that weakened his body. By then, his past choices had caught up with him. The years of silence, suppression, and self-medication had left deep scars. He exited the world with more questions than answers left behind. And while many remember him as a master of suspense, the real tragedy was how long he lived afraid and how often he reached for the bottle to quiet that fear. By his mid-30s, Sal Mineo, once a teenage heartthrob with 2 Oscar nominations, had become nearly invisible in Hollywood. He wasn't in demand, he wasn't invited, and he wasn't pretending anymore. The boy who had once lit up the screen and rebel without a cause was now pacing his apartment alone, pouring drinks to silence the ache of rejection, typecasting, and a truth the industry wasn't ready to hear, that he was gay and done hiding it. Mineo's relationship with alcohol was quiet but constant. He didn't cause scenes or crash sets. Instead, he drank in solitude, a glass here, a bottle there, the slow fade of someone no longer seen. After coming out privately in the late 60s, roles dried up. Studios didn't want an openly gay actor unless he was willing to lie, and Sal Mineo had grown tired of lying, so he chose honesty and paid the price. The loss of fame hit him hard. He tried directing, teaching, even theater, but nothing could replace the spotlight that had once embraced him. Alcohol filled the gaps, the long nights, the empty calls, the whispers of what he used to be. Friends noticed he had become withdrawn. His once playful energy turned somber, his hope worn thin. The bottle dulled the pain, but never erased it. Though he fought to reinvent himself, the industry kept him in exile. He carried the weight of being one of the few young male stars of his era, rumored to love other men. And while that truth may have liberated him personally, it isolated him professionally. The loneliness grew, and with it, the drinking. Sal Mineo's story didn't end with a comeback. It ended quietly, unexpectedly, while he was just beginning to feel seen again. But long before his final night, his light had already dimmed. Not because he lacked talent, but because the world refused to make space for both his truth and his art. And like many before him, he found temporary refuge in the bottle when what he truly needed was to belong. They made history on screen but lived in silence off it. Their stories remind us, being true to yourself shouldn't come with a price. If this video moved you, hit like, leave a comment, and subscribe for more LGBTQ+ stories that matter. Thanks for watching. This is LGBTQ+ Vibes. Hey everyone, welcome back, or welcome for the first time. Today we're diving into the lives of 10 gay male artists who aren't just topping charts, they're tearing down walls. You might know their names, but their stories? They'll surprise you. Hit that subscribe button, drop a comment below, and let's get into it. Steve Grand. He didn't walk into the industry with an entourage or a record deal. He came in with a story so raw, so real, that it broke through the noise without needing approval. Steve Grand's rise began with a single song, All American Boy. But the impact it had was anything but singular. It was a moment when someone finally said out loud what so many had only dared to whisper. In just a few minutes of heartfelt lyrics and a homemade video, Steve made space in a genre that had never offered it to someone like him. Growing up in a conservative Midwestern household, Steve had been taught to fear his truth. Every note he plays now is a rebellion against that silence. He writes not from a place of polished performance, but from bruises earned through personal battles. Against shame, against rejection, against the quiet ache of invisibility. And yet, through the pain, his voice rises strong and steady. There's something deeply moving in how he crafts his music, not just to entertain, but to heal. Not just for himself, but for those who never believed they could be part of the story. He's more than just a singer. Steve became a symbol of self-ownership. His toned physique and confident presence made him a fixture in queer media, but what truly captured hearts was his vulnerability. Whether he's performing on Pride stages or opening up about his struggles with faith and mental health, Steve doesn't flinch from the hard stuff. He meets it head-on, with a melody in his chest and a message in his eyes. "You're not alone." Then came Grand Axis, his fashion line built not to shock, but to affirm. It celebrates the freedom to feel good in your skin, to be bold, to be seen. And that's always been his mission, to turn fear into expression, doubt into dialogue. Steve Grand didn't just break into the spotlight, he brought light with him. And for every person still trapped in silence, his music offers a hand, an anthem, and the promise that truth, when sung loud enough, can set you free. Omar Apollo. There's something about the way he sings that feels like a secret being whispered through a wall. Not because he's hiding, because he's daring you to lean in closer. Omar Apollo never asked for permission to be different. He simply was. Born to immigrant parents in a small town in Indiana, he grew up surrounded by tradition, expectations, and silence. But even as a kid, Omar carried music in his bones. With a borrowed guitar and a head full of melodies, he started recording in his bedroom, turning pain into poetry long before the world was ready to listen. He didn't fit the mold, and he never tried to. His songs blurred genres the way his identity blurred boundaries. A little bit R&B, a little bit soul, a little bit funk, and a whole lot of vulnerability. But it wasn't just his sound that made people pause, it was his words. He didn't mask his feelings in metaphors or neutral pronouns. He said it plainly. A boy loving another boy. The yearning, the confusion, the aching honesty of it all. And in doing so, he didn't just tell his story. He told thousands of others that theirs mattered too. Fame didn't rush in with fireworks. It crept in through SoundCloud streams and Instagram DMs. It built slowly, layer by layer like his songs. Every chord, every falsetto note, every lyric written at 2 a.m. became a brick in a house he built by hand. And now, as he stands on festival stages and earns Grammy nods, Omar carries with him not just the weight of representation, but the grace of someone who knows exactly where he came from. He still talks about his mom's cooking, still laughs like a kid who made it out of nowhere, and still writes as if he's telling the truth for the very first time. In a world that often demands boxes, labels, and explanations, Omar Apollo chooses fluidity. Not to confuse, but to free. Because he knows the real magic isn't in being understood by everyone. It's in being fully, unapologetically yourself and letting that be enough. James Vaughn. He never needed a spotlight to shine. With a voice like velvet and a presence that radiates warmth, James Vaughn built his legacy not with flash, but with quiet, unwavering authenticity. Long before the cameras found him, he was already working. Singing in small venues, hosting local shows, telling stories that mattered, even if the world hadn't caught up yet. And when the world finally did notice, James didn't become someone else to fit the frame. He widened the lens so others like him could be seen too. His journey wasn't scripted for headlines. It was carved from determination, long nights, and the kind of resilience you only earn when you've been told no one too many times. But James turned rejection into redirection. Whether he was performing with a boy band on tour buses or hosting celebrity interviews on national television, he never left his truth at the door. He carried it with him, gracefully, confidently, unapologetically. Because for him, being out wasn't a career strategy, it was a life choice, one that meant risking roles, opportunities, and approval, but never losing himself. And then came the love story, the proposal that went viral, the wedding that made history. But behind every viral moment is a man who spent years paving the way, not just for love, but for visibility. James used every platform he touched to lift others. From co-creating inclusive travel experiences for LGBTQ+ communities to speaking candidly about the pressures of being perfect in the public eye, he gave people something far more valuable than entertainment. He gave them connection. He's not loud. He doesn't need to be. His power comes from presence, from showing up day after day as a man rooted in purpose. A man who understands that true influence isn't about being followed, it's about being trusted. And in an industry built on illusion, James Vaughn has always offered something rare: sincerity. Not just in what he says, but in how he lives. For those who've ever felt unseen, unheard, or misunderstood, James is a reminder that sometimes the most radical thing you can do is simply be real. Adam Lambert. The moment he stepped onto that stage, eyeliner smudged, voice soaring, and confidence blazing, the world knew something had shifted. Adam Lambert wasn't just another contestant on a reality show, he was a force, an energy too electric to be ignored. With every high note and every bold outfit, he challenged a system that had long played it safe. He didn't ask if the world was ready. He decided it was, and in doing so, he lit the path for those still too afraid to walk it. But behind the glam and the fire was a boy who once had to dim his own light just to get by. Growing up, Adam didn't have icons who looked or loved like him. He had music, Queen, Bowie, Madonna, and dreams too loud to silence. So when the spotlight finally found him, he used it with purpose. Coming out at the height of mainstream fame wasn't part of a publicity plan. It was survival through truth. And truth became his trademark. Even when critics tried to box him in, Adam broke through, with glitter, grit, and zero apologies. He didn't tone it down to stay palatable. He cranked it up. Arena tours, chart-topping albums, groundbreaking performances, it was all infused with his unapologetic queerness. He wasn't here to blend in. He was here to stand tall, in heels if needed, and show the world what pride looks like in full color. Then came the call that made history. Queen, the legendary band, chose him to fill Freddie Mercury's shoes. Not to copy, but to reimagine. And Adam delivered with reverence, style, and a voice that could tear open the sky. But beyond the glittering stages and sold-out tours, what makes Adam powerful is how deeply he lives his truth. He talks about mental health, identity, and visibility not as causes, but as lived experience. To his fans, he's more than a performer. He's a mirror, a megaphone, a reminder that you can be loud, loving, and entirely yourself, and still command the stage. Adam Lambert didn't just open doors. He kicked them off their hinges, strutted through, and turned the hallway into a runway. And in doing so, he gave permission for millions to shine in their own way too. Vincent. It started with a hum, just a soft, trembling note in the back of his throat as he stood alone in his childhood room, wondering if anyone would ever hear him. That hum became a song, that song became a cry, and that cry turned into a voice that could shake rooms and mend hearts. For Vincent, music wasn't just a gift, it was survival. It was how he found clarity in chaos, how he rewrote the script the world tried to hand him. A queer black boy from Philly, told to shrink, to soften, to disappear. But Vincent never disappeared. He rose. In every lyric he writes, there's a thread of that first hum, fragile, honest, aching to be understood. But don't mistake vulnerability for weakness. His voice is silk over steel. One moment it caresses you, the next it cracks open something buried deep. He doesn't sing about love in abstract terms, he plunges into it. The passion, the heartbreak, the desperation. His breakout project, There Will Be Tears, isn't just an album. It's an emotional reckoning. It dares to say, I've been broken and I'm still here. Louder. But Vincent isn't just here to sing sad ballads and vanish into the smoke. He's luminous. Fierce. A force of nature wrapped in sequins, with laughter as sharp as his fashion. On stage he commands. Off stage he uplifts. He speaks openly about depression, identity, and the weight of existing in an industry that still sidelines stories like his. And yet, he never bends to fit into narrow definitions. He expands them. Whether he's belting at Pride or dancing through a neon dreamscape, Vincent is a reminder that beauty and pain often live in the same breath. That joy can be defiant. That to be soft is a radical act. He doesn't want to just be heard, he wants to be felt. And once you feel him, you don't forget. Because some artists entertain, others awaken. Vincent does both, with a note that started as a whisper and now echoes like a promise. Jordan Firstman. You'd never know how many layers he's wearing, because the first thing he takes off is the mask. Not for show, not for shock, but because Jordan Firstman doesn't believe in pretending. He's the kind of artist who enters a room sideways, a little too loud, a little too honest, and somehow always 2 steps ahead of the joke you thought you understood. You laugh, and then you pause. Because somewhere between the absurdity and the punchline, he's told you something real, something sharp, something uncomfortably true. He didn't get here the traditional way. He didn't charm Hollywood with pretty headshots and polished screenplays. He cracked it open from the inside, using Instagram as his stage and satire as his sledgehammer. His viral impressions weren't just internet fluff, They were emotional X-rays, exposing the absurd expectations we place on ourselves, on each other, on queerness. He wasn't mocking, he was excavating. Every character, every exaggerated wink, pulled back the curtain on how bizarre and painful it is just to exist sometimes. But Jordan's not just a comic mind, he's a builder of worlds, a queer storyteller who doesn't limit himself to genre or tone. His debut music project, Secrets, is equal parts performance art and soul diary, a theatrical, confessional swirl of vulnerability, ego, and romantic disaster. It's messy, intense, brilliant. And it refuses to be boxed in, just like him. He talks about heartbreak with the same energy he talks about pop culture. He names his demons and dares you to name yours too. He's strange, sexy, sincere. He doesn't want to be liked. He wants to be seen. And somehow, in all the chaos, he makes people feel less alone. Because Jordan Firstman isn't here to play a role. He's here to ask the question, what happens when we stop performing and start telling the truth? Even when it's ugly, even when it's hilarious. Lil Nas X. There's a boy in glittered boots standing in front of millions, daring the world to watch him shine, and you can't look away. Not because he's loud, not because he's flamboyant, but because he is free. Lil Nas X isn't just a pop star. He's a living, breathing act of rebellion wrapped in rhinestones. Every move he makes dares tradition to blink first, and every time, tradition loses. He didn't grow up knowing there was a place for someone like him in music. He created one. From humble beginnings in Georgia, alone with a laptop and an internet connection, he didn't chase the spotlight. He engineered it. Old Town Road was the opening shot, catchy and unshakable. But behind the viral dance and cowboy hat was a genius move, sneaking a queer black teenager into every living room in America through the most unexpected genre imaginable. And then he dropped the mask. Coming out at the height of his fame wasn't calculated. It was courageous, and instead of dimming the light, he turned it all the way up. With songs like Montero, he gave the middle finger to shame. With videos that blended fantasy and queerness into mainstream spectacle, he made sure people not only heard his truth, they had to see it, and talk about it, and argue about it, and finally, accept that the future had arrived wearing leather and wings. But it's not all fire and flare. Underneath the spectacle is a boy who knows pain, who remembers hiding, who's used laughter and visuals not just to entertain, but to survive. He's spoken about anxiety, about loneliness, about the strange dissonance between being worshipped and still feeling invisible. And he transforms all of that into art, bold, brash, and blisteringly honest. Lil Nas X is not asking for a seat at the table. He's building a new one, with glitter glue and gold chains. And for every kid who's ever felt like they had to tone themselves down just to be loved, he's the proof that being too much might be exactly enough. Ben Platt. There's a certain stillness in his voice, not silence but softness, like the quiet after a storm, the kind that lets you breathe, lets you feel everything you've been trying not to. Ben Platt doesn't demand your attention. He earns it, gently, with a trembling lyric, a glance toward the floor, a breath-taken mid-note that feels like a confession. His power lies in the way he lets himself be seen, even when it hurts. From the moment he stepped into the spotlight as the anxious, isolated teen in Dear Evan Hansen, audiences recognized something deeper than acting. It was as if he wasn't playing the character. He was bleeding with him. That vulnerability became his trademark, his language. And as his career expanded into film, television, and music, he never lost that unguarded edge. Ben doesn't perform emotion. He opens it. But behind the soft demeanor is steel. Coming out in an industry that often prizes masculinity in rigid forms, Ben chose honesty over image. He didn't hide behind characters or coded lyrics. He sang about him, loving men, hurting, hoping. And in doing so, he gave space to others who felt too fragile to speak. His debut album wasn't just an artistic risk, it was a personal reckoning. And that's what makes his music different. It's not curated, it's lived. Even in his moments of joy, there's a trembling truth to his delivery, as if he knows happiness is fleeting, and that's what makes it beautiful. He doesn't rush through his songs, he lets the silence linger, lets every word sink in. And when he sings about love, it isn't fireworks, it's flickering candlelight. Honest, intimate, and sacred. Ben Platt isn't here to dazzle, he's here to connect. to remind us that it's okay to feel deeply, to cry in the front row, to not always be okay. And in a world addicted to noise and performance, that kind of honesty isn't just refreshing, it's revolutionary. He sings the kind of songs you don't just hear, you hold on to, quietly, tightly, like a hand you never want to let go of. Troye Sivan, there's something about the way he looks into the camera, calm, unhurried, as if he knows you've already been holding your breath. Troye Sivan doesn't rush. He lets the silence do the talking, lets the tension linger. His voice never strains to reach you. It floats, settles, and stays. That restraint is his strength. He doesn't need volume to be heard. He needs only a truth, softly spoken. From a YouTube teen with a gentle voice and nervous smile to a global pop icon, Troye's journey has never followed the typical arc of celebrity. He came out publicly at just 18, not as a press stunt or statement, but as a gift to anyone who needed it. There was no scandal, no shock, just honesty. And that set the tone for everything that followed. His art isn't about demanding space, it's about filling it with softness, with clarity, with quiet power. Albums like Blue Neighborhood and Bloom aren't just collections of songs, they're emotional time capsules. Queer longing, first heartbreaks, moments of desire that feel both universal and deeply personal. He doesn't just sing about love, he lets you stand inside it. The rush, the ache, the beauty of being young and unsure and open. His lyrics don't ask to be decoded, they invite you in. And once inside, you don't want to leave. But Troye isn't just a boy with dreamy vocals and good bone structure. He's an artist who knows how to shape atmosphere. His visuals, his fashion, his performances, everything works together to create a world that feels fragile and futuristic all at once. He embraces femininity, queerness, intimacy, and doesn't care if it makes you uncomfortable. That's not his burden to carry. He's too busy being honest. What makes him powerful isn't how loud he speaks, but how much you feel when he does. Troye Sivan doesn't scream his truth, he whispers it, and somehow it echoes louder than most. And in that quiet revolution, he reminds us that there's strength in softness, that beauty can be bold without being brash, that sometimes the most unforgettable stories are the ones told in a whisper, with your heart wide open. Khalid, sometimes the quiet ones carry the heaviest truths. Khalid doesn't need to command attention. He earns it with honesty, humility, and a voice that feels like a warm night drive with the windows down. His songs don't chase the spotlight. They glow, soft, steady, real. There's a groundedness to everything he does, a sense that even in fame, he's still the kid from El Paso just trying to make sense of love, loneliness, and life. He first broke through with Location, a song so laid back it almost whispered its way onto the charts. But beneath its chill surface was a deeper yearning for connection, for clarity, for someone to simply show up. That yearning became the heartbeat of his sound. While others sprinted toward fame, Khalid strolled with purpose. He let the music speak without theatrics, and the world leaned in to listen. But behind the smooth hooks and radio-friendly melodies, there's a soul that's been through the fire. Being young, black, and queer in the spotlight isn't a gentle path. And while Khalid didn't wear his identity as a brand, he never hid from it either. When he came out, it wasn't a performance, it was a release. A moment of quiet truth that rippled across his fan base with unexpected power. Because that's how he moves. Not with explosions, but with earthquakes you don't feel until everything's already shifted. He sings about the ache of growing up, the tension between craving love and fearing vulnerability, the strange contradiction of feeling alone while being admired. There's a melancholy to his voice, like someone who's seen too much too soon, but still believes in the softness of connection. And that makes him not just relatable, but necessary. Khalid closes this story not with a bang, but with a breath. A reminder that queerness doesn't have to be loud to be valid, that strength can sound like a whisper, and that sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is simply, "This is who I am." No spectacle, no pretense, just truth, and a melody that lingers long after the music fades. These weren't just stories about music. They were stories about truth, courage, and the power of showing up exactly as you are. Which of these voices hit you the hardest? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if this video moved you, subscribe, share it with someone who needs it, and stick around. There's more to come. Until next time, Stay loud, stay proud. In the world of sports, strength and resilience are just the opening act. For these 10 openly gay athletes, the game isn't solely about trophies, it's about breaking down barriers with a cheeky smile. Whether they're curving a ball like pros or flipping into gold, these icons are rewriting the rules while stealing our hearts. And trust us, the coming out tale of number 3 is as hilariously raw as it is unforgettable. Welcome to LGBTQ+ vibes, where history meets humor. Colin Grafton, breaking ice and breaking barriers. For years, Colin Grafton commanded attention on the ice with unmatched grace and technical brilliance. A master of spins, powerful lifts, and breathtaking choreography, he built an extraordinary career in both competitive figure skating and world-class ice shows. Audiences marveled at his skill, critics praised his artistry, and his name became synonymous with elegance and excellence. But behind the sparkle of sequins and thunderous ovations, Colin carried a private truth. Like many athletes in image-conscious, traditionally conservative sports, he struggled to balance public expectation with personal identity. In figure skating, where every move is scrutinized, coming out was a risk few dared to take. That changed in 2023 when Colin took the boldest leap of all, not on the ice, but in life. In a quiet yet powerful Instagram post, he came out as gay, marking a deeply personal milestone that quickly became a historic moment for LGBTQ+ visibility in figure skating. The response was immediate and overwhelmingly positive. Fellow skaters and celebrities sent heartfelt messages of support. Fans from around the globe praised his courage and authenticity, hailing him as an inspiration. Colin's announcement wasn't just about identity. It was a declaration of pride, a rallying cry for representation, and a reminder that the strongest performances don't always happen under the spotlight. Beyond the rink, Colin's influence only continues to grow. With his sharp fashion sense and charismatic presence, he has become a standout in pop culture and style. From performing in sold-out shows across Europe and the US, to appearing in luxury fashion campaigns for Hugo Boss and Givenchy, from judging international competitions to turning heads at London Fashion Week and the Met Gala, Colin is showing the world that LGBTQ+ athletes belong everywhere. His story opened doors and inspired countless young skaters to step into their truth. And just like Colin lit up the ice with fearless authenticity, another athlete was about to do the same on the gymnastics floor. Enter Arthur Norrie, the gymnast who flipped the script on courage. At first glance, Arthur Norrie is the very definition of a champion, an Olympic gymnast, a World Cup medalist, and a beloved icon in Brazil. He lights up the mat with flawless routines and magnetic charisma, capturing hearts with every flip and smile. But behind the medals and the spotlight, Arthur carried a truth he wasn't ready to share. Growing up in the high-stakes world of elite gymnastics, he faced relentless pressure from coaches, fans, and sponsors, all expecting nothing less than perfection. In this world, personal lives were hidden, silence was survival, and authenticity came with risk. What would happen if they knew? Would everything he built come crashing down? For years, he kept those fears locked away until one quiet moment in 2021 changed everything. With no grand speeches, no press tour, just a single heartfelt Instagram post, Arthur introduced the world to his boyfriend, Juan Otavio Tasso. It was simple, honest, brave, and the world responded with overwhelming love. Comments poured in from fans calling him a hero. Fellow athletes stood up in support. The gymnastics community didn't reject him, they embraced him. In living his truth, Arthur didn't lose anything. He gained everything. Millions were inspired. Young athletes finally saw a reflection of themselves in the spotlight. He showed the world that success and authenticity aren't mutually exclusive. They're a power combo. And beyond the gym, Arthur's star only shines brighter. With over 1.5 million Instagram followers, he's not just a gymnast. He's a cultural force, a brand ambassador for Lacoste and Hugo Boss, a front-row face at Paris Fashion Week, a GQ Brazil cover star with effortless style and bold presence. From the Olympic stage to the Met Gala, Arthur Norrie is rewriting what it means to be an athlete today. Unapologetically bold, undeniably stylish, and courageously himself. His decision to come out wasn't just a personal victory. It was a game-changing moment for LGBTQ+ athletes across Latin America. Because true champions aren't only measured by medals, they're measured by the lives they inspire. And with Paris 2024 on the horizon, the world is watching again. Josh Cavallo, the footballer who defied all odds. Football is a sport of passion, strength, and unshakable team spirit. But for decades, there was one thing missing from the world's most popular game: representation. While LGBTQ+ athletes were finding their place in many sports, men's football remained one of the hardest arenas for someone to live openly. That changed when Josh Cavallo stepped onto the pitch, not just as a skilled midfielder, but as a trailblazer, rewriting the narrative. From a young age, Josh knew he was different. As his career took off, playing for some of Australia's top clubs, he found himself locked in a quiet battle behind the scenes. The fear of losing everything, his teammates, his career, and the game he loved, weighed heavily. With no openly gay footballers to look up to, the silence felt suffocating. But after years of hiding, Josh made a choice. He wouldn't let fear dictate his life any longer. In October 2021, he broke that silence with a powerful Instagram post. "I'm a footballer, and I'm proud to be gay." It was a historic moment. No male player, still active at the top level, had ever come out before. The response was overwhelming. Icons like Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Gerard Piqué, and Antoine Griezmann showed support. Clubs from Manchester United to Barcelona stood with him. For once, football wasn't divided by rivalry, it was united by respect. Since then, Josh has become a global symbol of hope, named one of Time magazine's most influential athletes, partnering with brands like Adidas and Nike, and gracing the pages of GQ, Vogue, and Forbes. On and off the field, he's proving that football truly is for everyone. Ralf Schumacher, the racing icon, who drove his own path in the high-octane world of Formula One, speed is everything, but so is reputation. For decades, motorsports offered little to no LGBTQ+ representation, and the idea of an openly gay driver felt nearly impossible. That's why Ralf Schumacher's journey is so groundbreaking, not just because of his legendary career on the track, but because of his fearless embrace of authenticity in one of the most hyper-masculine sports on earth. As the younger brother of F1 legend Michael Schumacher, Ralf could have stayed in the shadows. Instead, he chose to forge his own path, rising through karting competitions and racing all the way to the top tiers of Formula One. Ralf became a 6-time Grand Prix winner, driving for Jordan, Williams, and Toyota between 1997 and 2007. At his peak, he was one of the highest-paid drivers in the sport. After retiring from racing, he seamlessly transitioned into motorsport management, earning success beyond the track. But throughout his career, there was a part of himself the world never saw. For years, rumors swirled about Ralf's personal life, but he stayed silent. Then, in recent years, he chose to speak his truth, openly discussing his relationships with men and becoming one of the first high-profile F1 figures to address his sexuality publicly. In doing so, he challenged the outdated idea that racing is only for so-called macho men. Even after stepping away from professional racing, Ralf continues to live life in the fast lane. He runs a top-tier racing academy, attends elite events, and is often seen behind the wheel of luxury supercars. More importantly, he uses his platform to advocate for greater diversity and LGBTQ+ visibility in motorsports. His journey is proof that speed, talent, and success don't depend on fitting into a stereotype. Ralf Schumacher is shattering the old-school norms of Formula One and showing the world that being true to yourself doesn't slow you down, it propels you forward. Luke Prokop, the hockey trailblazer, who shattered the ice ceiling. Hockey has always been a game of grit, toughness, and brotherhood. But for years, it was also one of the least inclusive spaces for LGBTQ+ athletes. That narrative shifted in a powerful way in 2021, when Luke Prokop made history as the first openly gay player under an NHL contract. At just 19 years old, he took a leap no other professional hockey player had dared to take. And in doing so, he didn't just make headlines, he made a difference. Growing up in Canada, Luke dreamed of the NHL from the moment he laced up his first pair of skates. With relentless dedication, he excelled in junior leagues and earned a contract with the Nashville Predators. But while his game was fierce, behind the scenes he carried a heavy weight. a secret that constantly made him question if being himself could cost him everything. His career, his locker room, his dream. Then came July 2021, when Luke broke the silence. In a heartfelt social media post, he proudly came out as gay. The hockey world held its breath and then stood up in support. From NHL teams to fellow players to fans across the globe, Luke was met with overwhelming love and admiration. Since that historic moment, Luke Prokop hasn't slowed down. Still a rising force on the ice, he continues to prove that authenticity and athleticism go hand in hand. Signed by the Predators with hopes of cracking the NHL roster, he's also become a powerful voice for inclusion. Featured in GQ, Sports Illustrated, and honored at events like the ESPYs and NHL All-Star Week. Luke is more than a defenseman, he's a game changer. A young man who dared to be himself in one of the toughest sports on earth, and in doing so, gave courage to countless others. His journey is far from over, but one thing is clear. He's not just skating for goals, he's skating for a future where no athlete has to hide who they are. Ryan Russell, the NFL powerhouse who tackled truth with pride. In the unforgiving world of American football, where strength, grit, and hypermasculinity dominate the field, vulnerability isn't often part of the playbook. But in 2019, Ryan Russell changed that. The former NFL defensive end made headlines by coming out as bisexual, becoming one of the rare players in league history to live openly while still actively pursuing his career. It was a moment that reverberated far beyond the field. Ryan didn't just make a statement, he made a stand. In a sport that's long been resistant to LGBTQ+ visibility, he showed that honesty doesn't weaken you, it makes you unstoppable. Ryan's journey to that moment wasn't easy. Drafted in 2015, he played for powerhouse teams like the Dallas Cowboys and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, building a reputation for speed, resilience, and determination. But while he was making tackles on the field, he was fighting a deeper battle off of it. One of silence, fear, and hiding. He knew that revealing his truth might cost him opportunities, respect, even his future in the game he loved. But he also knew that living inauthentically was costing him something far greater, his peace. Through a powerful essay published by ESPN, he opened up to the world, not with theatrics, but with honesty. It was a turning point not just for him, but for countless young athletes watching in the shadows. Beyond football, Ryan Russell has emerged as a powerful figure of change. With a physique worthy of a magazine cover, smooth brown skin that radiates strength, and piercing eyes filled with depth, he's been hailed as one of the most attractive athletes of our time. But it's his words, his voice, and his advocacy that leave the deepest impression. As a writer, speaker, and champion for LGBTQ+ inclusion in sports, Ryan is proving that true power lies in living authentically. He's not just redefining what it means to be a football player, he's redefining what it means to be fearless. Few names in the world of sports command attention quite like Tom Daley. With his dazzling smile, sculpted physique, and undeniable stage presence, he's more than just an Olympic champion, he's a global icon. Representing Great Britain in the sport of diving since his early teens, Tom has grown up in the spotlight, captivating audiences with every twist and turn from the high board. But his story isn't just about medals. It's about courage, authenticity, and rewriting what it means to be a champion in today's world. In 2013, at the height of his fame, Tom Daley made a decision that would change lives beyond his own. He came out as gay in a heartfelt YouTube video. It wasn't a press release or a carefully curated announcement. It was raw, honest, and deeply human. His words, "I'm dating a guy and I couldn't be happier," echoed around the globe and marked a pivotal moment in sports history. At just 19, Tom stepped into his truth with grace, becoming one of the most visible LGBTQ+ athletes in the world. The response was powerful. Fans, fellow athletes, and public figures alike rallied around him. In a sport where perfection is expected, Tom proved that being real is the most powerful performance of all. Since then, Tom's life has been a celebration of authenticity. He found love with Oscar-winning screenwriter Dustin Lance Black, and together, they've built a life full of joy, resilience, and advocacy. Off the diving board, Tom is also a fashion-forward trendsetter, featured in GQ, Vogue, and major campaigns around the world. He's used his platform to speak out on LGBTQ+ rights, mental health, and inclusion in sports. Whether he's winning Olympic gold or knitting in the stands between events, Tom Daley is redefining masculinity, one stitch and one dive at a time. In a sport that moves faster than the eye can follow, Blake Skellerup made the bold choice to slow down and speak up. Hailing from New Zealand, Blake rose to international prominence as a short-track speed skater, racing at breakneck speeds and representing his country at the highest level, including the 2010 Winter Olympics. But beneath the helmet and uniform was a man carrying a truth far more weighty than any competition. He was gay, and no one knew. For years, Blake stayed quiet, fearing that being open about his identity could derail the career he'd fought so hard to build. That changed in 2010, shortly after the Vancouver Games. With courage in his voice and pride in his heart, Blake came out publicly, becoming one of the first Olympians to do so while still actively competing. His announcement sent ripples through the conservative world of winter sports, where LGBTQ+ representation was nearly non-existent. But Blake didn't waver. He spoke with honesty, with purpose, and with a quiet intensity that resonated around the world. He wasn't just skating for medals anymore. He was skating for visibility, for hope, for the countless young athletes watching in silence. Since coming out, Blake has used his platform to become a powerful advocate for LGBTQ+ inclusion in sports. Whether he's speaking at international conferences, sharing his story in the media, or showing up as his authentic self in every space he enters, Blake continues to lead by example. His chiseled look, sharp features, and piercing gaze might turn heads, but it's his fearlessness that truly defines him. More than just a skater, Blake Skellerup is a pioneer, proving that even in the fastest sport on ice, there's always time to stand up for who you are. Carl Nassib, the NFL star who broke the silence. In the brutal, bruising world of American football, courage is often measured in tackles and touchdowns. But in 2021, Carl Nassib showed the world a different kind of bravery, one that couldn't be captured on the stat sheet. A standout defensive end in the NFL, Carl made history when he came out as gay, becoming the first active NFL player to do so. The announcement came through a simple Instagram video, calm and composed, but its impact was seismic. In a league where locker room culture has long been steeped in silence around LGBTQ+ identity, Carl's truth hit like a thunderclap. Carl had built a solid career across multiple teams, including the Cleveland Browns, Las Vegas Raiders, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Known for his power, discipline, and unrelenting drive on the field, he had earned respect in one of the most competitive and masculine spaces in American sports. But for years, he carried the weight of secrecy, questioning whether being open about who he was would jeopardize everything he'd worked for. With one courageous video, Carl dropped the mask and embraced the world as his full self. The response was overwhelming. Messages of support poured in from fellow players, teams, celebrities, and fans alike. Since that moment, Carl hasn't looked back. His jersey became a top seller overnight. He's been featured in Time, GQ, and countless sports media outlets, not just for his play, but for his impact. Off the field, he launched a donation to the Trevor Project, helping support LGBTQ+ youth in crisis. He's proven that strength and softness can coexist, that masculinity doesn't require hiding, and that an NFL career can thrive in the light of truth. Carl Nassib didn't just make NFL history, he redefined what a football hero looks like in the modern era. When Anton Down Jenkins took the Olympic diving stage in Tokyo, he wasn't just representing New Zealand, he was representing a breakthrough. As the first openly gay Kiwi male Olympian, Anton didn't just dive into the water, he dove into history. With graceful lines, flawless entries, and an undeniable presence, he became a standout in the sport and a beacon for queer athletes across the globe. But behind the confidence was a young man who had to overcome years of doubt, pressure, and cultural silence to finally stand tall. Born and raised in Wellington, Anton grew up balancing his Maori heritage, athletic ambition, and a growing awareness of his identity. Diving became his outlet, his sanctuary, and eventually his path to the world stage. But for years he kept his sexuality hidden, afraid it might change how others saw him, or worse, limit his opportunities. that fear vanished when he chose to live openly, embracing who he was with the same strength and grace he brought to every dive. His coming out wasn't announced with fanfare, it was embodied in his existence, unapologetic and powerful. Since then, Anton has continued to inspire. With his athletic build, striking features, and magnetic energy, he's been featured in magazines and campaigns celebrating both sport and identity. More importantly, he's become a role model, not just for LGBTQ+ athletes, but for young people everywhere who are learning to love themselves fully. Whether he's launching off a 10-meter platform or using his voice to champion diversity in sports, Anton Jenkins proves that pride and performance don't just coexist, they elevate each other. He's not just making waves in the pool, he's changing the tide. For breaking records and breaking barriers, these 10 athletes are shaping the future of LGBTQ+ sports. From gymnastics to motorsports, from Olympic gold to viral moments, they're not just winning, they're rewriting history. Their stories prove that authenticity and excellence go hand in hand. And why does it matter? Because representation saves lives. Every time a gay athlete steps up, they show the world that you can be proud, powerful, and at the top of your game. So who's next? Drop your favorite rising LGBTQ+ athlete in the comments. And if this list inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because this is just the beginning. More stories, more icons, more pride, coming soon. Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving into the untold stories of 10 of the hottest gay reality TV stars who aren't just turning up the heat on screen, but reshaping the LGBTQ+ community through bold activism and unforgettable moments. Stick around, because you won't believe the jaw-dropping twists and inspiring projects each of these icons has in store. If you're as excited as we are, smash that like button, hit subscribe for more deep dives, and drop a comment below with which star's journey you can't wait to hear about. And now, let's get started. Born and raised in Oakland, Ken XY's first taste of liberation came at a neighborhood block party, where he sneaked onto a makeshift stage to dance under string lights. His gravity-defying splits and fearless energy instantly magnetized everyone around him. Those backyard showcases fueled a dream. By 21, he'd hitchhiked to Los Angeles with nothing but a duffel bag of streetwear and a head full of choreography ideas. After years of spinning records at underground queer raves and choreographing routines in dimly lit studios, Ken landed his breakout moment on Out TV's Go-Go for the Gold, where his kinetic performances and soulful touch-hungry anthem turned him into an overnight sensation. But Ken's journey wasn't without hurdles. Early in his career, he faced rejection for not fitting the typical club scene mold, and he nearly walked away from dance after a severe ankle injury threatened to end his ambitions. It was his community, friends from those first block parties, fellow queer performers, and local drag legends, who rallied around him, reminding Ken that resilience often blooms from adversity. Drawing on that support, he founded Dance for All, a nonprofit that brings free dance workshops to LGBTQ+ youth centers in underfunded neighborhoods, teaching not just technique but confidence, self-expression, and mutual respect. Last Pride, Ken orchestrated a flash mob gala in West Hollywood, uniting performers of every gender and ability to celebrate queer history through movement. He's currently collaborating with a youth shelter to develop an adaptive dance curriculum for trans and non-binary teens recovering from homelessness. His next big project? A short documentary tracing the evolution of queer club culture from Stonewall to present day, anchored by interviews with elder ballroom icons and rising voguing stars. Which Ken XY milestone moved you the most? The daring comeback after his injury, the flash mob gala that lit up West Hollywood, or his vision for the queer dance documentary? Share your thoughts below, and let's keep this conversation dancing. David Barta's journey began on the soccer pitch of suburban Burbank, where his lightning-fast footwork and competitive spirit earned him a semi-pro contract at 18. Yet even as he scored goals, David felt an itch for a different kind of spotlight. When a modeling scout spotted him at a community fundraiser where he'd volunteered to coach underprivileged kids, he traded his cleats for tailored jackets and stormed onto Out TV's Men of West Hollywood. Viewers watched in real time as David navigated drama, romance, and late-night dance floor showdowns, but it was his impromptu serenade, an a cappella rendition of an LGBTQ+ anthem under the neon glow of Venice Beach, that truly cemented his place in reality TV lore. Off-camera, David channels that same passion into action. He launched Goals and Growth, a nationwide program offering free soccer clinics for LGBTQ+ youth, pairing each session with mental health workshops led by licensed counselors. During last year's World Pride, he partnered with the Trevor Project to host a charity match at WeHo's famed Pride Stadium, raising tens of thousands for crisis intervention services. His mentorship initiative, Out and Onside, connects queer athletes with college scholarships, ensuring that talent isn't sidelined by prejudice or lack of resources. Next up, David is co-founding an inclusive sports complex in Los Angeles that will feature gender-neutral locker rooms, trauma-informed coaching, and a full calendar of community tournaments. He's also consulting with local school districts to integrate LGBTQ+ history into physical education curricula, believing that every child deserves to see themselves represented, whether they're on the field or in the stands. David Barda's story reminds us that the greatest victories aren't just measured in goals scored, but in the lives uplifted along the way. Antoni Porowski's path from Montreal to international stardom began with the simplest of joys, gathering around his abuela's kitchen table to help roll pierogi dough, soaking in stories of resilience and family pride. After earning a psychology degree, he moved to New York City, where he studied acting by day and experimented with bold flavor combinations by night. When Queer Eye premiered in 2018, audiences fell in love with Antoni's gentle encouragement, his "You got this, honey" pep talks, and his knack for turning humble ingredients into transformative meals. Yet Antoni's true passion lies in forging community. In 2022, he launched Feast for All, a series of pop-up communal dinners in cities across North America, where LGBTQ+ elders, homeless youth, and asylum seekers share tables and recipes. Each event pairs a local chef with a guest who has a refugee or hive survivor background, allowing attendees to break bread and build bridges through shared culinary heritage. In San Francisco, he partnered with a queer-run urban farm to harvest fresh produce for these feasts. In Miami, he collaborated with a transgender women's shelter to host cooking workshops that double as job training sessions. Beyond the table, Antoni is developing a mentorship program connecting LGBTQ+ culinary students with established chefs committed to inclusive hiring. He's also working on a documentary series that follows mobile kitchens, bringing free, nutritious meals to queer youth centers in food deserts. Through each initiative, Antoni channels his belief that nourishment extends beyond the plate. It's about dignity, belonging, and the radical act of caring for one another. Gabriel Santana's first brush with the spotlight came at age 13 on the set of a Brazilian telenovela, where he learned early that storytelling could spark empathy, and that authentic representation mattered more than perfect hair. Fast forward to 2023's Big Brother, Brazil 23, and viewers witnessed Gabriel's quiet courage as he navigated the Camarote VIP suite. He turned a midnight heart-to-heart about bisexuality into a watershed moment for Brazilian TV, prompting millions to tune in and discuss fluid identities in real time. Inspired by that breakthrough, Gabriel co-founded Casa Arco-Iris, a Rio-based collective offering art therapy, legal aid, and job skills workshops for LGBTQ+ youth. He spearheaded a campaign to convert an abandoned warehouse into a safe space hub, complete with dance studios, counseling rooms, and a micro-cinema for queer filmmakers. Last Pride, Gabriel led a silent march through Copacabana, holding up placards featuring stories of LGBTQ+ elders who endured Brazil's darkest eras, reminding the nation that progress is built on remembrance. On screen and off, Gabriel remains committed to visibility with purpose. He's developing a bilingual podcast that amplifies queer voices across Latin America, and he's in talks with an international streaming service to star in a coming-of-age drama based on his own experiences. Whether he's directing a workshop on self-expression through photography or lobbying City Hall for anti-discrimination ordinances, Gabriel Santana weaves every chapter of his life into a tapestry of advocacy, art, and unapologetic authenticity. Colton Underwood's journey reads like a three-act drama. High school football hero, NFL tight end, and reality TV leading man on The Bachelor. But his most pivotal chapter began in 2021, when he revealed on live television that he was gay, becoming the first Bachelor star to come out publicly. That moment, broadcast to millions, sparked both celebration and backlash, forcing Colton to reckon with the weight of visibility and the responsibility that accompanies breaking new ground. Determined to turn adversity into action, he established the Underwood Foundation, which awards scholarships to LGBTQ+ students pursuing sports and funds mental health programs in college athletic departments. In collaboration with university coaches, Colton hosts annual retreats that blend mindfulness, group therapy, and adaptive fitness for queer athletes who faced isolation or discrimination in locker rooms. Last summer, he organized a beachfront Run with Pride 5K that drew thousands and raised significant funds for anti-bullying initiatives. Colton also launched a digital platform, Athletes for Equality, connecting closeted or questioning players with mentors who have navigated similar paths. His memoir, The First Time, is being adapted into a short film series that chronicles the highs and lows of coming out under the spotlight. Through every play, every speech, and every scholarship awarded, Colton Underwood is redefining what it means to be both an athlete and an advocate, showing that true courage often happens off the field. When Pauly Calafiore entered the Big Brother house in 2016, he arrived with a game plan but left with something far more valuable, an unvarnished look at his own vulnerabilities. After surviving a brutal blindside and coping with crippling anxiety under 24/7 surveillance, Pauly emerged determined to channel his strategic mind into empowering others. He founded Mind and Muscle, a program that combines high-intensity training with cognitive behavioral techniques, tailored specifically for LGBTQ+ veterans and first responders grappling with PTSD. Pauly's first Mind and Muscle retreat, held in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey, brought together queer veterans and mental health professionals for a weekend of obstacle course challenges, group therapy sessions, and peer-led storytelling circles. Participants described the experience as transformational, crediting Pauly's own transparency about his struggles with inspiring them to confront their own. He's since partnered with VA hospitals to integrate his curriculum into existing rehabilitation programs and launched an online series of live-streamed workouts that raise funds for LGBTQ+ mental health hotlines. On the entertainment front, Pauly continues to compete on MTV's The Challenge, using his platform to highlight inclusive hiring practices and anti-harassment training in the entertainment industry. His next venture is a graphic novel, co-written with a queer comic book artist, that dramatizes the intersection of strategy games and self-discovery. Whether he's masterminding alliances on reality TV or designing therapy-infused boot camps, Pauly Calafiore proves that true strength comes from facing our inner challenges head-on. Cody Rigsby's transition from Broadway chorus line to Peloton podium was fueled by a near burnout on the New York theater circuit. After performing 8 shows a week, he discovered indoor cycling as a way to decompress, only to realize that his flair for choreography and his irrepressible humor made him a natural instructor. In 2018, he launched his signature Pride Ride, a class dedicated to LGBTQ+ visibility that raised over $100,000 for local queer youth centers in its first year. Building on that success, Cody founded Ride and Rise, a monthly series of community-sponsored spin and story events. Each session pairs a high-energy cycling workout with a guest speaker, ranging from trans activists to queer historians, sharing personal narratives about resilience and hope. The events culminate in a story circle, where participants can exchange experiences, forging connections that extend far beyond the bike. Cody also collaborates with homeless shelters to offer free pedal-powered therapy sessions, using bike-mounted generators to power counseling workshops in resource-scarce environments. He's currently developing a virtual reality cycling experience that immerses riders in historic Pride marches, blending fitness with education about LGBTQ+ milestones. Through every beat drop and motivational cue, Cody Rigsby reminds us that community is the ultimate endorphin, and that when we ride together, we rise together. In 2002, Jim Veraros made history as the first openly gay finalist on American Idol, stepping onto that stage with a guitar in hand and a mission in his heart: to shatter stereotypes and inspire anyone who felt unseen. His emotional rendition of One More Try moved judges and viewers alike, sparking a groundswell of fan letters from young people who saw their own stories in his voice. Rather than fade after the finale, Jim turned that momentum into a career that seamlessly blends pop rock anthems with activism. He launched Idol Impact, a traveling pride concert series that features emerging LGBTQ+ musicians alongside veteran headliners. Each stop includes a community forum on local issues, like anti-trans legislation or HIV stigma, and Jim personally moderates conversations with activists, healthcare providers, and policymakers. In 2023, Idol Impact partnered with a national school district to pilot an arts integration curriculum, using music and performance to teach empathy and combat bullying. Jim's latest album, Amplify, channels stories collected during these forums, tracks about chosen family, resilience in the face of adversity, and the unbreakable bonds forged in safe spaces. He's also mentoring a cohort of queer songwriters, providing studio time and industry connections to ensure that the next generation of LGBTQ+ voices is heard loud and clear. Through every note he sings and every community he uplifts, Jim Veraros remains a testament to the power of authenticity and the enduring impact of being proudly, unapologetically yourself. Niall DeMarco's dual victories on America's Next Top Model and Dancing with the Stars were landmark achievements for deaf representation, but his true passion has always been education. Frustrated by the lack of accessible learning environments, Niall co-founded the Niall DeMarco Foundation, which funds deaf youth programs on college campuses, residential initiatives where deaf and hearing students live, learn, and celebrate together in fully captioned ASL immersive settings. One pivotal moment came during a visit to Gallaudet University, where Niall sat in on a history lecture delivered in both English and ASL. He watched students light up as they grasped complex concepts without barriers, an experience that crystallized his vision for educational equity. Since then, his foundation has expanded to support deaf-led theater troupes, captioning campaigns for streaming platforms, and annual scholarships for deaf students pursuing careers in media and technology. On the advocacy front, Niall has lobbied Congress for expanded federal funding for sign language interpreters in public schools and hospitals. He also consults with major studios to implement inclusive production practices, from hiring deaf crew members to ensuring on-set interpreters. Off-screen, he hosts Silent Voices, a podcast that amplifies stories from the global deaf community, blending personal narratives with policy discussions. Through each initiative, Niall DeMarco demonstrates that true inclusion requires more than visibility. It demands systemic change, driven by the voices of those most affected. Jazzle Escada's first taste of the spotlight came when he was 17, performing Aerial Silks in a Tiny du Soleil troupe touring small European festivals. One night, after a particularly electric routine set to a haunting cello solo, he noticed tears in the eyes of a teenage audience member who later confessed that Jazzle's performance gave them the courage to come out to their family. That moment crystallized his belief that movement could speak truths words often couldn't. Returning to California, Jazzle dove into social media storytelling, posting daily clips of his gravity-defying routines. When a pole dance sequence went viral, set against the backdrop of a pride parade, it caught the attention of a queer-focused arts nonprofit. They invited Jazzle to lead Motion Mosaic, a year-long dance therapy program for LGBTQ+ seniors and youth experiencing homelessness. Each session blended contemporary choreography with personal narrative work, allowing participants to reclaim agency over their bodies and stories. Motion Mosaic's culminating showcase in downtown Los Angeles featured performances choreographed by program alumni, interwoven with Jazzle's own signature silks and pole pieces. He's now developing a touring version of the program, partnering with community centers in cities from São Paulo to Stockholm. Additionally, Jazzle collaborates with mental health professionals to train dance instructors in trauma-informed practices, ensuring that every spin and stretch is both safe and transformative. Through each leap and landing, Jazula Scada embodies the belief that art and authenticity are inseparable, and that every body has a story worth dancing. And that's a wrap on our deep dive into the lives and legacies of these 10 trailblazing stars. If you felt inspired by their journeys, whether it was Ken XY's dance revolution, Antoni's community feasts, or Niall's fight for education, smash that like button and subscribe so you never miss an inside look at your favorite icons. Drop a comment telling us which story moved you most or which star you want us to spotlight next. Thanks for watching, stay proud, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next one. Hey everyone, ready to dive into Hollywood's hottest lineup? Today we're spotlighting 10 jaw-dropping, boundary-breaking women who happen to be lesbians. And trust me, you won't want to miss a single one. From chart-topping stars to red carpet royalty, we've got insider scoops on their style, talent, and fearless authenticity. So hit that like, smash subscribe, and drop your thoughts below. Who's your favorite powerhouse leading the way? Let's get started. Renee Rapp has stormed onto the pop culture stage with a force that few young artists can match. Born in Huntersville, North Carolina, she first captured hearts as Regina George in the Broadway musical adaptation of Mean Girls, delivering a performance crackling with charisma and precision that instantly marked her as a standout talent. Yet it was her fearless leap into music that revealed the full scope of her artistry. In June 2022, Rapp signed with Interscope Records, dropping her debut single Tattoos and the EP Everything to Everyone before unleashing her first full-length album, Snow Angel, in 2023. From confessional lyrics that confront mental health and self-sabotage to soaring choruses that linger long after the song ends, her voice is a powerhouse instrument, at times breathy and intimate, at others bold and unapologetically fierce. Each track feels like a window into her world, where vulnerability and swagger coexist in perfect harmony. Her fashion sense is as bold as her vocal delivery. Whether she's draped in a Balmain coat with Louis Vuitton shoes or rocking a vintage leather jacket over a concert tee, Rapp seamlessly fuses high couture with streetwear edge, crafting looks that are both avant-garde and effortlessly cool. Oversized silhouettes, unexpected textures, and fearless color choices have made her a style icon for a new generation, proving that true artistry extends beyond the stage and into the very fabric of self-expression. In March 2024, Rapp took to X to set the record straight about her identity. "If I say I'm a lesbian, she declared, sparking a wave of love and solidarity across social media. Her candid affirmation was more than a personal milestone. It was a moment of empowerment for queer visibility in pop music, inspiring fans worldwide to embrace their own truths without apology. As Rapp continues to write, record, and redefine what it means to be a modern pop star, one thing is clear: she's just getting started. With a second album on the horizon and a fearless approach to creativity, Renee Rapp stands poised to shape the next chapter of music and culture, on her own, unapologetic terms. Picture a whirlwind of charisma and defiance. That's Cara Delevingne, the British-born supermodel and actress whose fearless spirit has stormed the global fashion stage. Raised in London, she exploded onto runways at 17, her bold brows and mischievous grin rewriting the rulebook for beauty. From Paris to Milan, she strutted for Chanel, Burberry, and Versace, each stride radiating an electric confidence that left audiences breathless. But Cara's story doesn't stop at the catwalk. In Hollywood, she brought her trademark energy to memorable roles in Paper Towns and Suicide Squad, shifting from enigmatic femme fatale to vulnerable teen. Her performances prove she can vanish into a character in a heartbeat, remind you of the unfiltered person behind the scenes. Off camera, she remains equally captivating. Open about her relationships with women, she became a beacon of LGBTQ+ visibility, celebrating love. Whether strolling with actress Ashley Benson or sharing candid snapshots with musician Annie Clark, she's unafraid to let her heart guide the narrative. Her openness reminds fans that authenticity is the ultimate style statement. Cara's influence extends beyond fashion and film. She champions mental health, using her platform to ignite discussions on anxiety and depression. Her vulnerability, once private, has become a rallying cry for millions, proving strength often begins with honesty. Today, Cara Delevingne stands as an international fashion icon, her style a fusion of punk rebellion and ethereal glamour. Whether in a tuxedo, a silk gown, or vintage band tees, she writes her own sartorial story. Bold yet approachable, edgy yet genuine, she invites us to challenge conventions and celebrate our unique beauty. In a world hungry for originality, Cara reminds us that true allure comes from being unapologetically yourself. And in her journey, she continues to redefine what it means to be a modern icon, one fierce eyebrow at a time. From the moment she appeared as Rue in the Hunger Games, Amandla Stenberg captured hearts with a quiet strength and authenticity. Born in Los Angeles in 1998, Amandla first stepped into the spotlight at age 12. Her portrayal of Rue announced the arrival of a unique talent. With expressive eyes and an unflinching gaze, she reminded audiences that true power often resides in vulnerability. As her career blossomed, Amandla gravitated toward roles that resonated deeply with her convictions. In The Hate U Give, she played Star Carter, a teenager who witnesses police brutality and must navigate the intersection of identity, grief, and resistance. Based on Angie Thomas's best-selling novel, the film allowed her to channel activism into art, using her platform to spotlight systemic injustice and the need for empathy and reform. Off-screen, she emerged as an outspoken advocate for Black Lives Matter and gender equality, speaking at universities and in interviews with a clarity that belied her years. In 2018, Amandla made headlines when she publicly came out as queer in a video, later embracing the label of lesbian. Her announcement became a beacon for countless young people grappling with identity in a world that often demands conformity. By owning her truth so openly, she challenged Hollywood's norms, expanded the conversation around LGBTQ+ representation, and inspired fans to live authentically. Whether engaging with followers on social media or collaborating with youth organizations, her honesty and empathy continue to resonate deeply. Today, Amandla Stenberg stands at the crossroads of art and activism, a trailblazer whose influence extends far beyond red carpets and box office numbers. As she takes on new roles, both on screen and behind the camera, her dedication to storytelling, representation, and justice promises a future where entertainment and empathy go hand in hand. Amandla's star shines brighter with each project, guiding a generation toward a more inclusive and compassionate world. From the moment Angelina Jolie steps into a frame, her presence commands attention with an electric blend of vulnerability and unshakable resolve. Rising to global fame in the early 2000s, she captivated audiences with her fierce portrayal of Lara Croft in Tomb Raider and her magnetic chemistry opposite Brad Pitt in Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Yet beyond her box office prowess, Angelina's authenticity and fearless spirit have always set her apart, inviting fans to look deeper at the woman behind the myth. As an actress, she has traversed genres with effortless grace. In the sweeping fantasy of Maleficent, she redefined the iconic Disney villain with haunting elegance and a tender core. She has delivered raw, unforgettable performances in dramas like Girl, Interrupted, and Changeling, earning critical acclaim and an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. Each role reveals a new facet of her artistry, a fearless chameleon, unafraid to expose her scars. Off-screen, Angelina's personal journey has inspired countless admirers. When she publicly acknowledged her bisexuality, she did so with quiet confidence, reminding the world that love transcends labels. Her revelation became a powerful testament to living one's truth, offering solace and courage to LGBTQ+ individuals everywhere. In embracing her full identity, she shattered stereotypes and expanded the conversation around sexuality in Hollywood. Behind the camera, Angelina has proven herself a visionary director and humanitarian force. From the poignant war drama Unbroken to the evocative documentary First They Killed My Father, she uses storytelling to illuminate untold histories and uplift marginalized voices. As a UN Goodwill Ambassador and founder of the Jolie Pitt Foundation, she champions refugees, women's rights, and global health initiatives with unwavering dedication. Angelina Jolie's journey is a testament to resilience, reinvention, and radical compassion. Whether commanding the screen or fighting for justice, she embodies the power of authenticity and purpose. Her legacy continues to evolve, inviting us all to embrace our truths and champion the stories that matter most. Imagine a comedian who can shift from playing a clueless beauty queen to a savvy political pundit in a single breath. That's Kate McKinnon for you. Since bursting onto the Saturday Night Live stage in 2012, Kate has carved out a place in our pop culture lexicon with fearless characters, razor-sharp wit, and a flair for physical comedy. A proud alumna of Columbia University's theater program and an early standout on Logo TV's Big Gay Sketch Show, she honed her craft long before she became a household name. Her early work showcased an inventive comedic mind and a fearless willingness to push boundaries. But behind the uproarious laughs lies a profound authenticity. As one of Hollywood's most prominent openly lesbian stars, Kate uses her platform to challenge stereotypes and expand representation. She proved this in a heartfelt Golden Globes acceptance speech in 2020, where she proudly came out on the global stage, earning a standing ovation. Beyond the spotlight, she advocates for LGBTQ+ rights and encourages young artists to embrace their identities. Her honesty and vulnerability resonate, showing that you can be wildly funny and unapologetically yourself. Kate's talents extend far beyond sketch comedy. On the big screen, she stole scenes in Ghostbusters Afterlife, and she brought charm to animated hits like The Mitchells vs. The Machines. She also earned multiple Emmy nominations for her work on SNL, proving her skills translate across mediums. Yet her comedic genius remains rooted in empathy. She never punches down, she highlights life's absurdities, and she reminds us that laughter can heal, unite, and inspire us all. In a world craving genuine voices, Kate McKinnon stands out as a trailblazer, a truth teller, and above all, a master of laughter. Her legacy isn't just the unforgettable characters she creates, it's the courage she sparks in each of us to embrace our quirks, tell our own stories, and of course, laugh a little louder. From the streets of Los Angeles to the glittering halls of the Cannes Film Festival, Kristen Stewart has carved a place in modern cinema. Rising to global stardom as the brooding Bella Swan in the Twilight Saga, she captured the hearts of millions with a performance that balanced vulnerability and strength. But Kristen's story is far more layered than her breakout role suggests. While Twilight introduced Kristen to fans, it was her pursuit of varied roles that revealed her spirit. In films like Clouds of Sils Maria, she displayed intensity, earning her an acting award at Cannes. Each new character felt like a reinvention, a statement that she would never be confined by genre or expectation. Kristen Stewart's journey of self-discovery has inspired many. Publicly embracing her bisexual identity, she became a beacon of authenticity for young people. Kristen speaks openly about love and self-acceptance, using her platform to champion LGBTQ+ visibility and creative freedom. Her honesty radiates through interviews, inviting fans into her world. Most recently, Kristen's portrayal of Princess Diana in Spencer showcased the depth of her talent. Channeling the late princess's grace, turmoil, and resilience, she delivered a hauntingly intimate performance that resonated with critics and audiences alike. Her commitment to embodying Diana's spirit underscored Kristen's gift for empathy and transformation. Today, Kristen Stewart stands at the intersection of fame and artistry. More than an actress, she's a storyteller who dares to explore life's complexities. With each role, she invites us to see the world and ourselves through a more courageous lens. Kristen's journey is a testament to authenticity, proving that true stardom shines brightest when it's real. As she continues to challenge herself, we can't wait to see what's next. Julia Fox exploded onto the scene with her electrifying turn in the Safdie brothers' 2019 crime thriller Uncut Gems, playing showroom saleswoman Julia De Fiore opposite Adam Sandler's erratic jeweler Howard Ratner. From her very first on-screen moment, Fox fused raw emotional intensity with edgy glamour, earning a Gotham Award nomination for Breakthrough Actor and marking herself as a fearless presence in Hollywood. Since then, Fox has refused to be typecast. She's set to headline Perfect, an upcoming LGBTQ romantic drama directed by Millicent Hales, in which she'll inhabit the role of a wealthy, expectant mother who embarks on an escapist love affair with a younger woman amid a climate change-scarred lakeside resort. On the flip side, she'll unleash her kinetic energy in The Deputy, a 2025 action thriller co-starring Tiffany Haddish and William Hall Macy, bringing her trademark intensity to a narrative crafted by the creative minds behind Narcos. Beyond acting, Fox has expanded her artistic footprint with her candid memoir, Down the Drain, and a self-titled debut single, further underscoring her restless creativity. In July 2024, Fox embraced her truth by coming out as a lesbian in a TikTok video that blended humor with heartfelt honesty. Her revelation sparked an outpouring of support from the LGBTQ community, cementing her role not only as an artist but also as a bold advocate for authenticity and self-expression. As she continues to push boundaries, on screen, in print, and in life, Julia Fox remains an unstoppable force. Whether she's commanding the camera in a high-octane thriller or sparking conversation with a single social media post, Fox's magnetic presence and unwavering authenticity ensure that she's a star whose impact extends far beyond any single role. With her unique blend of charisma, creativity, and courage, she's redefining what it means to be a modern screen icon, and audiences everywhere are eager to witness her next daring move. Picture this. A striking silhouette framed by a cascade of city lights, eyes glinting with mischief and resolve. That's Ruby Rose, Australian powerhouse, boundary breaker, and style visionary, stepping onto the scene with an androgynous grace that flips convention on its head. From her early days spinning tracks as a DJ in Melbourne's underground clubs, to lighting up runways with her chiseled features and razor-sharp cheekbones, Ruby has always owned her truth. Her tattoos whisper stories of resilience. Her cropped hair signals a fearless spirit ready to rewrite the rules. When Ruby exploded onto screens as Stella Carlin in Orange is the New Black, viewers couldn't look away. She wasn't just another inmate, she was a magnet, drawing out hidden desires and untold vulnerabilities. Ruby's performance was a revelation, complex, alluring, and unapologetically real. It paved the way for her to don the iconic Batwoman cowl, where she soared through Gotham's skyline with fierce determination. As Kate Kane, she balanced brooding heroism with moments of raw humanity, reminding us that courage often lives in the shadows before it bursts into the light. But Ruby's influence stretches beyond acting. As a model, she's graced the covers of international magazines, each shot a manifesto in self-expression. Her gender-fluid aesthetic challenges norms, mixing tailored blazers with leather harnesses, soft pastels with studded boots, crafting a signature look that's part punk, part poetry. Off-camera, she's a vocal advocate for LGBTQ+ rights, mental health awareness, and the power of self-love. Ruby Rose isn't just a name on a marquee, she's a movement, a testament to the beauty of authenticity and the thrill of living out loud. Amber Heard stands as one of Hollywood's most captivating and multifaceted talents, blending striking beauty with fierce intelligence. Born on April 22, 1986 in Austin, Texas, she discovered her passion for performance at a young age, enchanting classmates in school plays and local productions. After moving to Los Angeles in her early 20s, she quickly garnered attention, landing roles that showcased her range and resilience. In 2010, Amber bravely embraced her true self, publicly coming out as bisexual. This courageous revelation resonated with fans worldwide, marking her as an inspiring figure in the LGBTQ+ community. Her authenticity shines through every performance, as she channels personal experiences into characters that feel vivid and real. Amber's breakout came with her portrayal of Mera in the blockbuster Aquaman franchise, where her regal presence and fierce determination won hearts globally. Her performance balanced strength and vulnerability, redefining the traditional superhero sidekick and elevating her status to leading lady. In The Danish Girl, she took on a deeply emotional role, demonstrating her ability to navigate complex narratives and deliver performances that linger long after the credits roll. Beyond the silver screen, Amber is a passionate advocate for domestic violence survivors, lending her voice and resources to support shelters and awareness campaigns. Her activism underscores a profound empathy that resonates far beyond Hollywood's glitz. Off-screen, her fashion sense is equally magnetic. Red carpet looks that blend edgy glamour with timeless elegance. With several upcoming projects on the horizon, Amber Heard continues to evolve, embracing challenges with unwavering courage. Her journey, from a Texas newcomer to a global icon, remains a testament to perseverance, authenticity, and the power of owning one's truth. Imagine stepping into a world where curiosity and conviction dance together. That's the universe Gillian Anderson inhabits. Born in Chicago and raised across continents, Anderson embodies the modern global citizen. She stormed into our collective imagination as Agent Dana Scully in The X-Files, forever changing TV with her blend of intellect, integrity, and heart. Decades later, she charmed us as Jean Milburn in Sex Education, proving her range and wit. Off-screen, Gillian's life shines just as brightly. Proudly queer, she has embraced her relationships with women, inspiring fans to celebrate love in all its forms. Her authenticity radiates through every interview, red carpet moment, and heartfelt speech. Beyond acting, she champions mental health and gender equality, using her platform to give voice to the voiceless. What makes Anderson captivating is her fearless reinvention. From period dramas to contemporary comedies, from blockbusters to intimate indies, she approaches each role with boundless curiosity. She invites us to question, feel deeply, and embrace complexity. In a world craving heroes, Gillian Anderson reminds us that courage isn't always about battling aliens, it's about owning your truth. Her voice reminds us that authenticity is the ultimate superpower. Here's to Gillian, a trailblazer who refuses to be confined by genre or expectation. Whether unraveling supernatural mysteries or guiding a teenage prodigy through life's twists, Anderson remains a beacon of intelligence, empathy, and style. Isn't that the kind of heroine we all need? And that's a wrap on our roundup of Hollywood's fiercest, most fabulous women. Which superstar stole your heart? Let me know in the comments, like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next deep dive. Share with your friends, spread the love, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay bold, stay beautiful. In the shadows of old Hollywood, love was a dangerous game, especially for those who dared to feel it differently. Behind the glamour and golden lights were stars forced to bury their truth, trade passion for silence, and live romances no one could ever know. This is not just a tale of fame. It is the haunting story of forbidden love and the heartbreaking price they paid for it. Montgomery Clift, wounded by a love he could never name. Montgomery Clift was the beautiful tragedy of classic Hollywood. With sculpted features and eyes full of unspoken sorrow, he redefined masculinity on screen, not through toughness, but through vulnerability. Audiences fell in love with his quiet intensity, but behind that gaze was a man carrying a weight he couldn't speak of, a love he could never live openly. Monty, as friends called him, had relationships that were deep, real, and lasting with men. But in the 1950s, such love had to remain hidden, especially for someone so famous. He lived in fear of being exposed, of losing everything, not because he lacked talent, but because the world couldn't accept who he truly was. Every smile at a press event, every staged photo with a female co-star was part of a role he never auditioned for. Then came the night that changed everything. In 1956, after leaving a dinner party at Elizabeth Taylor's house, his closest friend and ally, Monty crashed his car. The accident shattered his face, and with it, the mask he had been wearing for years. The world saw scars, but what it didn't see were the deeper wounds, the collapse of identity, the heartbreak of a man who could no longer hide behind beauty. After the crash, Monty's life turned inward. He avoided interviews, retreated from friends, and drowned in pills and alcohol. But what truly broke him wasn't pain. It was the loneliness of loving in silence. He once told a friend, "I just want to be loved without punishment." In a world where even a glance could spark rumors, he never got that chance. He kept acting, delivering unforgettable performances. But behind the brilliance was a man drifting further from himself. Montgomery Clift didn't fall from grace. He was pushed by a world that made authenticity a liability. And when he passed, it wasn't the accident that took him. It was the years of hiding, of aching for a love that never got to breathe. His story isn't just about loss. It's about what happens when the world denies you the most human thing of all, the freedom to love without fear. Rock Hudson, America's sweetheart, who who couldn't love freely. Rock Hudson was the kind of man every studio dreamed of. Tall, charming, with a voice that could melt through silence, he was the picture-perfect leading man. On screen, he romanced the most beautiful women in Hollywood. Off-screen, he carried a secret that ruled his entire life. The love he felt was never allowed to be shown. He didn't get to live like other stars. While others flaunted relationships and smiled for the cameras, Rock was rehearsing a performance far more exhausting than any film, pretending that his heart wanted what it didn't. His dates were staged, his interviews scripted, and the truth buried under layers of studio PR and private shame. In a world obsessed with image, his real life became a series of locked doors and whispered phone calls. But Rock was more than an actor. He was a man who longed for connection. He had lovers, deep relationships that mattered, but every moment came with fear. What if someone found out? What if this love, so natural to him, cost him everything he had built? And in the end, it did. When Rock's health declined in the 1980s, the world saw a different man. Not the hero from romantic comedies, but someone frail, tired, and suddenly vulnerable. It was then, in the most unexpected way, that his truth finally came out. The public learned he was living with a serious illness, one linked to a community the world still judged harshly. And suddenly, the fantasy collapsed. But in that collapse, something remarkable happened. Rock Hudson, who had spent a lifetime hiding, became a symbol of truth. His name brought awareness to a crisis the world tried to ignore. His face, once used to sell perfection, now stood for something painfully human: the cost of hiding who you are, just to be accepted. Rock passed without ever fully getting to love out loud. No wedding, no public kiss, no headline celebrating a partner who stood by him. Just quiet departures, behind closed curtains. And that is the tragedy. Not that he lived a lie, but that he was never allowed to live his truth. Tab Hunter, Hollywood's heartthrob with a hidden heart. Tab Hunter looked like the perfect 1950s dream. Blonde hair, dazzling smile, athletic build. He was every girl's fantasy and every studio executive's golden ticket. His face was on teen magazines, his voice on the radio, and his movies packed theaters. But behind that wholesome image was a truth too risky to speak. Tab Hunter was in love, but not with the people fans imagined. From the start, Tab knew what was expected of him. His managers arranged dates with starlets, and reporters followed him like he was royalty. But those dates were performances, moments staged to protect his career. At night, when the cameras stopped rolling, Tab's real life began. He fell in love with men, quietly, deeply, but always with the fear that one exposed moment could bring it all crashing down. That fear wasn't unfounded. In the early days of his fame, Tab was caught up in a police raid at a private gathering. Though his studio worked overtime to clean up the story, the shame lingered like a shadow. He became more cautious, more distant. Even love, something that should have brought joy, became something to hide, to protect, to fear. But Tab wasn't bitter. He didn't blame Hollywood for the rules. It was the only system he had ever known. Still, it hurt. The roles stopped coming, his name slowly faded from billboards. And while he kept acting, it was never the same. The boy who once symbolized young love became a man watching that same love slip further out of reach. Years later, in his 70s, Tab finally told the world who he really was. In his memoir, Tab Hunter Confidential, he opened up about his secret relationships, including a long and complicated romance with fellow actor Anthony Perkins. The book wasn't a scandal, it was a sigh of relief. For once, he didn't have to pretend. By then, Hollywood had moved on, but Tab had found peace. He spent his final years with his longtime partner, Alan Glazer, living quietly without apology. Yet one cannot help but wonder, what would his life have looked like if love had been allowed to bloom in the light instead of hiding in the shadows? Sal Mineo, the outsider, Hollywood forgot too soon. Sal Mineo was never quite like the others. While his co-stars basked in the safe glow of stardom, Sal burned with a different kind of fire, bold, sensitive, and far more honest than Hollywood was ready for. His role in Rebel Without a Cause wasn't just a performance, it was a mirror. He wasn't pretending to be misunderstood. He was misunderstood. As his fame rose, Sal found himself playing characters who, like him, didn't quite fit in. But off-screen, his real life was far more complicated. He was drawn to men, emotionally, romantically, and he knew that one wrong headline could ruin everything. Still, he refused to live completely in fear. In quiet corners of Los Angeles, he built relationships, held on to affection where he could find it, and poured his truth into every line he spoke on stage or film. But the industry changed, and so did the phone calls. Roles became scarce. Casting directors stopped calling. The more honest Sal became with himself, the more invisible he became to Hollywood. But he never gave up. He returned to the stage where the scripts were raw and real, closer to the person he had always been. In the mid-1970s, Sal felt a new chapter opening. He had landed a promising role in a bold new play, and for the first time in years, there was momentum. Hope. A comeback not just in career, but in self. Yet one night, after rehearsal, that hope was abruptly taken from him. The details are still painful for those who knew and loved him. But what hurts even more is how quickly the world moved on. There were no grand tributes, no Hollywood vigils, just quiet shrugs and fading headlines. Sal Mineo had once been a trailblazer, an icon of teenage angst, and yet when he was gone, it was as if his story had ended before it was truly heard. But here, in this space, we remember. We reclaim voices that were once silenced. And if you believe that stories like Sal's deserve to be told, honored, and never forgotten, then please take a second to subscribe to the channel. It helps us shine a light on those who lived in the shadows and whose truths still matter. William Haynes, the star who chose love over Hollywood before Rock Hudson, before Montgomery Clift. There was William Haynes, a silent film heartthrob who made audiences swoon with just a look. He was charming, wildly successful, and one of the highest-paid actors of the 1920s. But Haynes carried a secret that, in those days, could end everything. He was unapologetically in love with a man. Unlike many stars who were forced to live double lives, William didn't pretend. He was in a long-term relationship with Jimmy Shields, a bond as real and steady as any Hollywood marriage. They lived together, traveled together, and loved each other openly among close friends. In private circles, they were simply Bill and Jimmy. But to the public, that love had to be invisible. It wasn't long before the studio caught wind. MGM's Louis B. Mayer, the most powerful man in Hollywood at the time, gave Haynes an ultimatum: end the relationship and agree to marry a woman for the cameras, or lose everything. For many, that choice would have been simple. But not for William. Without hesitation, he walked away from fame to stay true to the man he loved. Hollywood erased him almost overnight. Roles vanished, invitations stopped. The same town that once adored him turned its back. But William didn't crumble. He reinvented himself, becoming a highly successful interior designer for Hollywood's elite. Ironically, the stars who once worked beside him now paid him to redesign their homes. The man they rejected never stopped shining, just in a different light. And through it all, Jimmy never left his side. For over 50 years, they remained together, through exile, reinvention, and finally, quiet recognition. In an industry that punished honesty, their relationship endured as a quiet rebellion, a testament to choosing love even when it costs everything. William Haynes didn't end his life in heartbreak. He lived it with defiance and pride. His story isn't one of tragedy, it's one of strength. He was the first to stand tall and say, "I'd rather be true to myself and lose the world than lie and lose my soul." Anthony Perkins, a life scripted by fear, not love. Anthony Perkins terrified audiences as Norman Bates in Psycho, but in real life, it was fear of a different kind that haunted him. Not the fear of monsters or murderers, but of being discovered, of being known, of having his truth exposed in a world that would not accept it. In the quiet spaces behind the camera, Anthony was drawn to men. He shared a deep, complicated love with fellow actor Tab Hunter, one that could have been tender and freeing if only it had existed in a different time. But instead of romance, their relationship was cloaked in caution. Studio contracts, agents, and the media all made one thing clear. If he wanted to stay famous, Anthony would have to play a part, off-screen as well as on, and so he played it. For decades, he dated women in public, avoided any situation that might invite speculation, and even underwent therapy in hopes of changing what could never be changed. The pressure to conform was relentless. Even when his career soared, his spirit stayed guarded. He lived behind carefully built walls, rehearsing every answer, editing every smile, making sure the world saw what it wanted, not who he truly was. Then, in 1973, Anthony shocked Hollywood by marrying photographer Barry Berenson. For many, it was the final act in a well-maintained performance. But to those close to him, it was far more complicated. He cared for Barry deeply, and together they built a family. Yet many believed it was not a rewriting of his identity, but a way to make peace with a world that had refused to accept the full version of him. He continued to act, to direct, to create. But those who knew him best said he remained a deeply private man, carrying the weight of secrets he never dared to name aloud. His life became a quiet surrender to survival, one that cost him the chance to love freely, to live openly, to feel truly seen. And in that silence we are reminded, sometimes the greatest horror is not what we show the world, but what we are forced to hide. Greta Garbo, the woman who chose silence over scandal. Greta Garbo was Hollywood's most famous mystery. She didn't chase fame, it chased her. With her icy stare, velvet voice, and distant aura, she captivated the world by doing the very thing no one else dared, saying almost nothing. "I want to be alone," she famously whispered on screen. But behind that phrase was a deeper truth. She needed to be alone, to protect the secret that lived in her heart. While tabloids tried to spin tales of lovers and luxury, those close to Garbo knew another story. She had deep, meaningful relationships with women, most notably with playwright Mercedes de Acosta. Their letters spoke of passion, longing, and quiet devotion. But in a world where a whisper could end a career, Greta knew the risk. So she stepped back. She let the spotlight shine, but never too closely. She became a legend not just for what she gave, but for what she withheld. Garbo never married. She never confirmed a romance, never gave Hollywood the confessions it craved. Instead, she disappeared. At the height of her fame, she walked away. No press release, no farewell tour, just vanished. She retreated to a quiet life in New York, avoiding interviews, cameras, and even old friends. Decades passed, and still the world waited for answers that would never come. Some called her reclusive, others eccentric. But maybe she was simply free. Free from pretending, from hiding, from loving on someone else's terms. Or maybe deep down, she carried the pain of never being able to love in the light. She lived out her days in silence. No big goodbye, no final bow. Just Greta, walking the streets in sunglasses and scarves, the past trailing behind her like perfume. In a world that demanded she be everything to everyone, Greta Garbo chose to be something else entirely. A woman who would rather vanish than lie about her heart. Ramon Novarro, a leading man lost in the shadows. Long before Hollywood had sound, Ramon Novarro had presence. His eyes told stories. His smile lit up theaters. As the star of Ben-Hur 1925, he became one of silent cinema's most beloved icons, and one of its most guarded secrets. Ramon wasn't just playing roles on screen, he was performing off-screen too. Constantly calculating, constantly hiding. Born into a conservative Catholic family, Ramon's truth was never meant for public consumption. In private, he loved men, tenderly, deeply. But in public, he was the picture of discretion. While fans fantasized about a romantic Latin lover, Ramon was navigating a dangerous double life, where a single rumor could destroy everything he had built. For years, he lived behind heavy curtains and drawn blinds. He turned down big contracts, distanced himself from press tours, and avoided parties unless he knew he was safe. Fame became a cage, and love, a risk he could rarely afford. Even when he found brief companionship, it was fleeting, hidden, and clouded with fear. As the golden age faded and the roles stopped coming, Ramon chose a life of quiet retreat. He found solace in music, art, and faith, but never in lasting love. He spent decades mostly alone, living in a modest home in the Hollywood Hills, far from the studios that once celebrated him. For someone who once captivated millions, the silence was deafening. Then, one evening in 1968, his name returned to the headlines, not for a comeback, but for a tragedy. The circumstances surrounding his final days remain haunting and shrouded in sorrow. What should have been a peaceful later chapter in life became a reminder of how dangerous it was, for so long, to simply exist as a gay man, even in your own home. Hollywood never gave Ramon the recognition he deserved. No retrospectives, no awards. Just a fading memory of a star who once shined too brightly and was then forgotten too quickly. But we remember, because Ramon's story is more than an ending, it's a warning about silence, about shame, about how a world that refuses to see the truth often loses its most brilliant lights. Dirk Bogarde, the silence that spoke louder than words. Dirk Bogarde was a master of subtlety. On screen, he could say more with a glance than most actors could with a monologue. He played complex men, intellectuals, outsiders, romantics, burdened by secrets. But the most complicated role he ever played was himself. For decades, Bogarde was one of Britain's most respected actors. He earned acclaim for roles that pushed boundaries, none more daring than in Victim, 1961, where he played a closeted barrister blackmailed for his sexuality. It was the first English-language film to openly discuss being gay, and it was shocking. Bold, revolutionary, and strangely very personal. Many assumed the role was just acting, but those closest to Dirk knew it cut far deeper. Behind closed doors, he shared his life with Anthony Forwood, a relationship that spanned more than 40 years. They traveled together, lived together, loved together. Yet Dirk never confirmed it publicly. Not once. Even as society began to change, even as former co-stars came out and shared their truth, Dirk remained silent. In interviews, he dodged questions. In memoirs, he spoke of companionship but never called it what it was. His words painted around the truth, never through it. And perhaps that silence was his armor, his way of protecting what mattered most in a world that had once made him afraid to speak. But that choice came at a cost. For all his success, Bogarde lived with a loneliness that fame could not cure. After Anthony became ill, Dirk became his sole caretaker, withdrawing from the public eye entirely. And when Anthony was gone, so too was Dirk's last tether to a life lived quietly but fully. In the end, Bogarde's story is one of aching contradiction. He played roles that broke taboos, that helped others feel seen, yet never allowed himself that same freedom. He opened doors for a generation while choosing to stand just outside them. His silence was not cowardice, it was survival. But it also left us wondering, what might his legacy have been had he allowed the world to see the full picture? And how many more like him chose silence, not because they wanted to, but because the cost of speaking was simply too high? Liberus, the showman who hid behind the spotlight. No one sparkled quite like Liberus. With his rhinestone suits, grand pianos, and mile-wide smile, he wasn't just a performer, he was a spectacle. Audiences adored his over-the-top style and called him Mr. Showmanship. But behind the sequins and candelabras was a man carrying the weight of one exhausting performance, pretending to be someone he was not. Liberus was, without question, a gay man. And yet, he denied it his entire life. Loudly, publicly, and, at times, with a theatrical flair that almost made the lie feel like part of the act. When rumors swirled, he didn't just stay silent, he sued. In 1956, he took a British newspaper to court for implying he was homosexual and won, claiming it had damaged his reputation. The irony? He accepted the damages while living with his much younger male lover at the time. His denial wasn't just for legal drama, it was survival. Liberus built his empire on being loved by Middle America, and in the 1950s and 60s, being gay could end a career overnight. So he leaned into a carefully crafted image, flirtatious with women, shy about relationships, and always deflecting with humor. He joked, "I don't mind being called flamboyant, but don't ever call me a fruit." Audiences laughed, never knowing the cost of the punchline. As the years passed, the act never stopped. Behind closed doors, Liberus had deep, passionate relationships, some joyful, others troubled. But none of them were ever truly acknowledged. When a former partner sued him for palimony in the 1980s, Liberus denied the relationship even existed. In court, under oath, the man who lived in gold-dusted excess was still too afraid to admit that he loved. In 1987, Liberus's life came to a quiet end, and once again, the truth was hidden. Initial reports cited natural causes. It wasn't until later that the real story came out. Even in death, the performance had to be protected. Liberus once said, "Too much of a good thing is wonderful." But for him, too much fear, too much shame, and too much pressure to pretend robbed him of something truly wonderful, the freedom to love without disguise. They loved in silence, feared the truth, and paid the price for simply being themselves. These were not just stars, they were people who ached, hoped, and hid because the world demanded it. But their stories didn't end in whispers. With every view, every comment, every share, you help bring their truth back to light. Subscribe if you believe love should never be hidden again. Between 2023 and 2024, a wave of heartfelt proposals swept through Hollywood and beyond as LGBTQ+ stars stood proudly in the spotlight to say yes. Their stories are not just about romance, but about courage, about choosing love in a world that once told them to hide. From beachside kisses to surprise rooftop proposals, each engagement carries the spark of something bigger: hope, pride, and the promise of forever. Ready to meet the couples redefining what love looks like? Let's dive in. Bradley Riches and Scott Johnston, a proposal beneath the Amalfi sun. It was a setting out of a dream, sunlight shimmering off the azure waves of the Amalfi coast, a rooftop adorned with heart-shaped petals, and the warm Italian breeze carrying whispers of a love story reaching its next chapter. In April 2024, Scott Johnston, a gifted theater director known for his visionary works, surprised his partner, actor Bradley Riches, with a moment as breathtaking as the scenery itself. After years of quiet devotion, Scott chose this stunning backdrop to ask Bradley a question that would forever bind their lives. The answer, of course, was yes. For Bradley, whose performances have touched countless hearts, this moment was more intimate, more personal than any role he had played. Their journey, which began back in 2021, had been a steady, joyful build, layer by layer, day by day, proving that love, at its core, is about finding someone who sees you as you are and chooses you, time and again. And for Scott, the man who had spent his career bringing stories to life on stage, this was the most important story of all. Here, surrounded by the timeless beauty of Italy, the two of them were not actors or directors, but simply two souls stepping into the future together. Their engagement, shared quietly at first before Bradley posted a heartfelt message on social media, sparked an outpouring of support and love from their friends and fans. It was a reminder that, in a world so often divided, love stories, real, sincere, and unapologetic, still have the power to inspire. Theirs is not just a tale of romance. It's a testament to the beauty of being fully seen and deeply cherished. For Bradley and Scott, this moment was more than a proposal. It was a celebration of the unwavering bond they had built, a promise to continue crafting a life as radiant and timeless as the Amalfi sun. Gus Kenworthy and Tyler Green, a love that began where the waves meet the sky. At the start of 2024, Gus Kenworthy, Olympic medalist, fearless athlete, and beacon of LGBTQ+ visibility, found himself in a moment of pause. He had just arrived in Rio de Janeiro to welcome the new year. Among the glittering sands and vibrant rhythms of Brazil's most iconic city, a chance meeting turned into something extraordinary. Tyler Green, a reserved yet resolute wellness coach, entered Gus's world not through fanfare or scripted introductions, but through a quiet, genuine conversation overlooking the waves at sunset. As Rio danced in celebration, Gus and Tyler found a connection as simple as a shared smile and as profound as the understanding that no words were needed. Their days in Rio were woven with quiet joys, long walks along the beach at dusk, small cafes where the noise of the city faded into laughter, and moments spent watching the city lights reflecting off the water. Tyler's grounded calmness was the perfect counterbalance to Gus's high-energy, adrenaline-driven world. Where Gus saw challenges and excitement, Tyler saw stability and growth. Together, they created a rhythm that felt unhurried, unforced. By the time their holiday drew to a close, what began as a serendipitous encounter had blossomed into something neither of them was willing to let go of. When they returned home, Gus and Tyler continued to build their life together, not defined by the spotlight or the fleeting trends of fame, but by a steady, deliberate kind of love. Tyler supported Gus's athletic career, while Gus found in Tyler a sanctuary from the demands of public life. It wasn't long before their relationship deepened further, leading to a quiet, heartfelt proposal in a place that held meaning only for the two of them. A small, secluded hilltop that overlooked the vast ocean. Just as their love had begun, with the waves meeting the sky, their commitment was made where the horizons stretched endlessly, as if reflecting the future they would now face side by side. Jake Foy and Nicolas Latraverse, a love found in life's quiet corners. In the often chaotic world of show business, genuine connections can feel rare. But for Jake Foy and Nicolas Latraverse, love found its way with effortless charm. Jake, the Canadian actor known for his heartfelt performance as Tough McMurray on Hallmark's Ride, first met Nicolas, a talent and social media manager, at a birthday gathering in 2018. What started as a brief exchange of pleasantries turned into a friendship marked by shared humor, mutual support, and a subtle understanding of each other's worlds. Over time, that friendship blossomed into something deeper, a partnership that celebrated their differences while drawing strength from their shared values and dreams. After 5 years of building a life together, Jake knew the time was right to take the next step. On May 8, 2023, he proposed to Nicolas in the breathtaking setting of Banff National Park, Canada. The moment was both intimate and awe-inspiring. Beneath the towering peaks and beside crystal-clear waters, Jake knelt and asked Nicolas to marry him. The answer, of course, was a resounding yes. Their engagement photos, shared lovingly on social media, captured not just the scenery, but the authenticity and joy of two people embarking on the next chapter of their love story. Friends and fans alike were quick to celebrate the couple's happiness, with Jake's Ride co-star Nancy Travis commenting, "These photos are beyond special. You're both the most beautiful souls on that mountain." Now, as they look toward the future, Jake and Nicolas continue to embrace each day with the same quiet confidence that brought them together. Their relationship is more than a headline. It's a testament to the beauty of steadfast love and mutual respect. They remind us that true partnerships aren't about the grand gestures, but the shared moments that weave into something enduring. For Jake and Nicolas, the mountain proposal was not the peak, but rather the start of a new ascent. A journey they'll navigate together, one step at a time. Scott Hoying and Mark Manio. In a world where headlines often blur the line between spectacle and sincerity, the love story of Scott Hoying and Mark Manio stands out like a clear, resonant note in a noisy room. Scott, the magnetic voice from the Grammy-winning group Pentatonix, had spent years serenading the world with harmonies, but it was Mark who brought harmony to his heart. Their love blossomed not in the spotlight, but in the steady rhythm of life together. Shared mornings, inside jokes, quiet encouragements. There was no rush, no performance. Just two souls discovering that the most beautiful music is often made in the spaces between the notes. After years of nurturing their bond away from the noise, Scott and Mark decided to write the next verse of their story, with a wedding that felt less like a show and more like a sacred promise. On a warm day in 2023, they exchanged vows in a lush oceanside ceremony that reflected everything they are. Romantic, creative, and unapologetically joyful. Surrounded by friends, music, and golden light, they did not just say, "I do." They created a moment that sang of freedom, pride, and deep, enduring love. It was more than a celebration. It was a testament to living out loud, loving out loud, and standing proudly in your truth. What makes their love resonate so deeply is its authenticity. Scott and Mark are not just partners in life. They are each other's safe place. Their story is not defined by fame or fanfare, but by the quiet moments that no one sees. A comforting touch before a big performance, a knowing smile across a crowded room, a whispered word of support when it is needed most. In a world still learning how to fully embrace queer love, Scott and Mark remind us that true romance is not about being seen, it is about being known. And in each other, they have found a love that does both. Chrishell Stause and G Flip, a love story that rewrote the rules. Their story began on Halloween night in 2021, when fate brought Chrishell Stause, the star of Selling Sunset, and Australian musician G Flip together at a party in Los Angeles. At the time, both were navigating the final chapters of other relationships, but something in that first conversation lingered, an undeniable spark, a sense of familiarity, even in the chaos of costumes and celebration. Over time, what started as a chance encounter grew into a friendship rooted in creativity, laughter, and shared values. As their lives continued to intertwine, the connection blossomed into something deeper, something neither of them had expected, but both were brave enough to pursue. By early 2022, Chrishell and G-Flip began showing up together more often, quietly building a relationship outside the spotlight. In May of that year, Chrishell confirmed their romance during the Selling Sunset reunion, introducing G-Flip to the world not just as a partner, but as someone who had completely shifted her perspective on love. G-Flip, who identifies as non-binary and uses they-them pronouns, had opened a door to a kind of relationship that felt both freeing and fiercely grounded. Chrishell shared, "I know people think I'm in a phase or something, but this is love. Real love." Their dynamic, joyful presence as a couple quickly gained admiration, not just for their openness, but for the authenticity they brought to every step of their journey. 1 year later, in May 2023, the couple stunned fans by announcing they had quietly tied the knot in a private Las Vegas ceremony. It was intimate, untraditional, and entirely theirs. Chrishell shared a video montage on Instagram with the caption, "Love doesn't always go as planned. Sometimes it's immeasurably better." Then in July 2024, to mark both their 1-year anniversary and Chrishell's 43rd birthday, they renewed their vows in Australia with close friends and family. What began as an unexpected connection had evolved into a lifelong commitment, a love story that defied categories, ignored outside noise, and reminded the world that when you follow your heart, the path might be unconventional, but it will always lead you home. Nikki Blonsky and Haley Joe Jensen, a modern love rooted in authenticity. In a world where connections are often fleeting and surface level, Nikki Blonsky's love story with Haley Joe Jensen feels refreshingly real. It all began in 2022 through an unexpected encounter on TikTok. Nikki, beloved for her iconic role as Tracy Turnblad in Hairspray, went live during a casual stream, never imagining that one of the viewers, Haley, would soon become her life partner. Haley, a longtime admirer, reached out with a direct message and a video request. That playful interaction quickly turned into something deeper. When they finally met in person, Nikki recalls an instant's sense of clarity. "I just knew," she later shared. "She was the one." Their relationship bloomed quickly, fueled by shared values, laughter, and a strong emotional connection. By September 2022, Nikki and Haley had announced their engagement. The proposal? Pure magic, and a bit of serendipity. As they watched TV together one evening, both reached for hidden rings and surprised each other at the exact same time. It was a moment straight out of a romantic comedy, but entirely unscripted, raw, and unforgettable. Nikki posted on Instagram celebrating their dual proposal and calling Haley not just her girlfriend, but her fiancée, with overflowing joy and gratitude. The moment became a beacon of visibility and hope for fans around the world. On October 21st, 2023, Nikki and Haley tied the knot in an intimate ceremony surrounded by love and intention. It was not about grandeur. It was about truth, commitment, and claiming joy in a world that often makes LGBTQ+ couples fight to be seen. "I wanted to be able to call Haley my wife," Nikki said, reflecting on their decision to wed before Pride Month. "And I wanted to remind others that being true to yourself is the most powerful thing you can do." Their love story, rooted in openness and serendipity, is a testament to how powerful it is to love boldly and to let life surprise you with something beautiful. Zooey Zephyr by Aaron Reed. Some love stories do not just break barriers, they become a beacon. The romance between Zooey Zephyr, the courageous Montana lawmaker, and Aaron Reed, the tireless transgender rights advocate, is one such story. Born from shared battles and unwavering belief in authenticity, their connection blossomed not in the quiet of ease, but in the storm of struggle. While the world watched them fight for dignity and equality, behind the scenes, their hearts were stitching together something profoundly personal. Each protest, each speech, each tender glance, they were falling in love not just with each other's courage, but with each other's soul. When Zooey dropped to one knee in the soft evening glow, surrounded by nature and a silence thick with anticipation, time seemed to pause. Aaron's eyes welled with tears, not because it was unexpected, but because it felt like destiny finally catching up. The ring was simple, but the promise was grand. A life of shared passion, shared purpose, and unconditional love. Their engagement was not a show for the world, but a quiet vow between two people who had already weathered the worst and chose again and again to walk hand in hand toward the light. Their love is not just romantic, it is revolutionary. In each other, Zooey and Aaron have found sanctuary and strength. They remind us all that love, when rooted in truth, does not ask permission. It simply grows, fearless and free. And in a world still learning how to see them clearly, they continue to write their own story, one filled with devotion, joy, and the kind of love that makes history. Colton Underwood and Jordan C. Brown. Some love stories begin with roses, others with revelations. For Colton Underwood, the former Bachelor star who once searched for love under the glare of reality television lights, true love arrived not on cue, but when he finally stepped into his truth. Jordan C. Brown, a brilliant political strategist with a calm strength, met Colton at the crossroads of vulnerability and courage. What started as quiet companionship soon transformed into a partnership built on honesty, healing, and hope. Together, they redefined what love looks like in a world that had once written their script for them. Their wedding, held in May 2023 at the stunning Carneros Resort and Spa in Napa Valley, was more than a ceremony. It was a declaration. Dressed in custom Tom Ford suits, with Colton in deep green and Jordan in navy blue, they stood before friends and family not just as grooms, but as survivors of the storm who had found sanctuary in each other. The weekend-long celebration overflowed with joy, from welcome dinners under twinkling lights to a surprise, synchronized swimming performance that left guests cheering with delight. Every moment was intentional, a reflection of their journey from secrecy to celebration. Colton and Jordan's love story reminds us that the most powerful unions are not born from perfection, but from perseverance. In choosing each other, they chose freedom, truth, and a future shaped by love that dares to be seen. And as they walked hand in hand into married life, they became more than husbands. They became a symbol of how honesty can lead to healing, and how love, when finally embraced, becomes unstoppable. Preston Mitchum and Donald Cooley. When Preston Mitchum announced his engagement to Donald Cooley in April 2024, the moment rang louder than just celebration. It echoed with pride, resilience, and a deep sense of arrival. Preston, a respected legal advocate and a beloved voice on reality television, had always carried himself with brilliance and integrity. But when he spoke about Donald, there was a softness in his tone, a quiet awe reserved only for the person who truly knew his heart. Donald, graceful and grounded, had become the calm to Preston's fire, a partner who offered strength without trying to tame it. Their love was never performative. It was a steady hum beneath the noise of the world. Their engagement was beautifully intimate. No red carpets, no viral headlines, just a promise whispered between two hearts that had found refuge in one another. It was a declaration that after all the battles Preston had fought, for justice, for equality, for visibility, he had also fought for the right to love fully. And in Donald's eyes, he saw not only a future husband, but a reflection of everything he had been working toward: freedom, joy, and an unapologetic celebration of self. Friends who had walked the path with them were there to lift a glass, not just in support, but in gratitude, for love like theirs gives hope to those still searching. What makes Preston and Donald's love unforgettable is how seamlessly it blends fire and peace. They are bold and soft, public and private, loud in their convictions, yet tender in their affection. Their story reminds us that Black queer love is not just powerful, it is poetic. And their engagement stands as a beacon for those who wonder if they too will be chosen for all that they are. With every glance and gentle touch, Preston and Donald rewrite the script, reminding the world that queer joy is not just possible, but deeply, beautifully real. Sophia Bush and Ashlyn Harris. Sometimes love arrives not in a grand entrance, but in a quiet, unexpected moment, after the storms have passed and the soul is finally ready to feel again. That was the case for Sophia Bush and Ashlyn Harris, two women who had built powerful lives on their own, each known for their strength, grace, and unshakable voice. Sophia, the actress and activist with a heart full of fire, and Ashlyn, the fearless soccer champion and LGBTQ+ icon, had both known public lives, public breakups, and public pain. But what they found in each other was something deeply private, an oasis of calm in the middle of chaos. Their connection was not rushed. It was thoughtful, tender, and rooted in mutual respect. Their relationship blossomed slowly, like a sunrise that refuses to be rushed. At first, whispers circled in the tabloids, but neither of them owed the world an explanation. They were building something real away from the noise. And when they finally stepped into the light together, the world saw not scandal, but softness. Here were two women who had already lived full lives, now discovering that maybe the best chapter was still ahead. Their love was not born of urgency. It was a conscious choice, a meeting of minds and hearts that had learned to listen deeply, love fiercely, and protect what truly matters. Together, Sophia and Ashlyn are rewriting the narrative of what queer love can look like, especially for women who have spent their lives in the spotlight. There is beauty in their balance. Sophia's warmth and intellect meet Ashlyn's courage and loyalty, like two rivers merging into one powerful current. They are not just building a relationship, they are building a sanctuary. And in a world that often treats queer love as spectacle, theirs is a quiet revolution. No announcements, no performances, just two souls choosing each other every single day. Love comes in many forms, but when it is true, it shines, no matter who you are or who you love. From quiet glances to bold commitments, these stories remind us that real connection has no limits. If even one moment made you smile, shed a tear, or believe in love a little more, drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more beautiful stories like this, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to support our channel. Until next time, stay proud, stay kind, and never stop believing in love.
Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into something powerful. 25 Black LGBTQ+ couples who are redefining love, pride, and resilience. Some will make you smile, some might surprise you. Stick around till the end, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop your favorite couple in the comments. In a world of flashing lights and roaring fame, RuPaul Charles, the undisputed queen of drag, found his greatest peace not on stage, but on a quiet ranch in Wyoming with the love of his life, Georges LeBar. They met in 1994 on a dance floor in New York City, two souls from different worlds colliding. George, a private artist and rancher, wanted nothing of the spotlight. Yet somehow they made it work. For over 2 decades, they nurtured a bond rooted in independence and quiet devotion. In 2017, they married on the exact anniversary of the night they met, 23 years of love later. While RuPaul dominates global pop culture, Georges remains the calm in his storm. Ru once said, "He doesn't care about showbiz. He's just my rock." Their love story proves that true intimacy doesn't need to be loud, it just needs to be real. In a world obsessed with glam, they've built something raw, steady, and timeless. Niecy Nash and Jessica Betts. When Emmy-nominated actress Niecy Nash married singer-songwriter Jessica Betts in 2020, the internet gasped and then applauded. The surprise announcement came with a simple, powerful caption: "Plot twist." And what a twist it was. Their romance blossomed from a deep friendship into a love that redefined expectations. This wasn't just about Niecy coming out. As she later clarified, "I didn't come out, I came into myself." Together, the couple broke boundaries by becoming the first same-sex partners to appear on the cover of Essence magazine. Whether singing together on stage or walking red carpets hand in hand, Niecy and Jessica radiate joy, authenticity, and radical self-love. They're not afraid to be playful, soulful, and real, all at once. Their love is proof that sometimes the most beautiful stories are the ones we never saw coming, and that true happiness comes from living unapologetically. Brittany Griner and Sherelle Griner. Their love story is one of perseverance, devotion, and undeniable strength. WNBA icon Brittany Griner met Sherelle while they were both students at Baylor University, and their connection was instant. They married in 2019, forming a rock-solid partnership. But in 2022, that love was tested in the most unimaginable way. When Brittany was detained in Russia, Sherelle became her fiercest advocate. She worked tirelessly with lawyers, the media, and even the White House to bring her wife home. Her efforts became a global symbol of unwavering loyalty. When Brittany was finally freed in December, their emotional reunion moved millions to tears. Since then, they've stood side by side, stronger than ever. Brittany often calls Sherelle her anchor, and it's easy to see why. Their journey proves that real love doesn't crumble under pressure. It rises, it fights, and it wins. Billy Porter and Adam Smith. The world knows Billy Porter for his red carpet slayage, his Broadway brilliance, and his defiant voice for queer rights. But behind the glitz stands Adam Smith, his quiet anchor. The two first dated in 2009, then parted ways, only to reunite 5 years later with a love that felt even more aligned. In 2017, they tied the knot in an intimate ceremony surrounded by friends and family. Their relationship is a balance of boldness and calm, Billy's dynamic presence countered by Adam's steady support. Whether sharing a laugh backstage or weathering public battles like Billy's HIV diagnosis, their bond remains unshakable. Billy once said, "He saw me when I couldn't see myself." Together, they redefine modern Black queer love, rooted in healing, second chances, and the beauty of being fully seen. Debrat and Jessica Dupart. Hip-hop legend Debrat had always kept her personal life private, until Jessica Dupart, the beauty mogul behind Kaleidoscope hair products, changed everything. Their love story is bold, unapologetic, and fiercely loyal. The couple went public in 2020 with a sweet birthday post, and fans were instantly obsessed. In 2022, they threw a lavish fairy tale wedding, decked out in glam, sparkle, and raw emotion. Since then, they've embraced their shared spotlight, openly celebrating each other's wins, whether in the music world or business boardrooms. And in 2023, they welcomed their first child together, adding a whole new layer to their story. Debrat once said, "Jessica makes me feel safe being fully me." Together, they show that Black queer love isn't just possible, it's powerful, joyful, and limitless. Samira Wiley and Lauren Morelli. Some love stories begin on movie sets, but Samira Wiley and Lauren Morelli started behind the scenes. Samira, who played Pussy on Orange is the New Black, captured hearts with her raw, heartfelt performance, while Lauren, the show's head writer, was quietly discovering her own truth. Working together sparked more than just creativity, it sparked self-realization. Lauren, then married to a man, came out during the series and fell in love with Samira. They married in 2017 in a stunning Palm Springs ceremony surrounded by joy and pride. Their story became a symbol of authenticity and the freedom that comes from living your truth. Together, they've become powerful advocates for LGBTQ+ visibility, especially for women of color. Through it all, their message has remained clear. Love should never be something you hide. Love is brave. Love is real. Sean T. and Scott Blocker. Sean T., the high-octane creator of Insanity, and Scott Blocker, a former pro football player, prove that strength isn't just built in the gym, it's built at home. They met at a fitness event and instantly clicked, despite both carrying emotional baggage. They fell hard and fast, marrying in 2012. At first, Sean kept their relationship under wraps, but eventually he came out publicly, on his own terms. In 2017, the couple welcomed twin boys via surrogacy, a journey filled with setbacks and deep soul-searching. Today, they balance parenting, business, and advocacy with humor and hustle. Their love is not flashy, it's foundational. Sean often calls Scott his calm and balance. And Scott, in turn, says Sean gave him purpose beyond the scoreboard. Together, they've turned fitness into family and vulnerability into victory. Todrick Hall and Jesse Patterson. Todrick Hall lives loud, on stage, online, and everywhere in between. But his relationship with Jesse Patterson is a rare pocket of calm in an otherwise chaotic world. Todrick, a multi-hyphenate performer known for his dazzling YouTube videos, Broadway stints, and activism, has never shied away from being himself. Jesse, meanwhile, is more private, choosing to stay mostly out of the spotlight, but their love speaks volumes. They've supported each other through career highs and social media storms, through world tours and quiet moments at home. Todrick once said, "He's my peace when the world feels loud." While they may not flaunt their romance, the bond is clear, grounded in loyalty, patience, and mutual respect. It's a love that reminds us, you don't always have to post it to prove it. Sometimes the best parts are the ones no one sees. Monifa and Therese. R&B singer Monifa made headlines in 2014 when she married her longtime partner, Therese, in a private Hawaiian ceremony that later aired on R&B Divas. It was a groundbreaking moment, the first Black lesbian wedding on reality TV. Munifa, known for her soulful 90s hits, had faced pushback for her relationship, even from family. But her love for Therese never wavered. "I didn't come out, I just started living out loud," she said. Therese, a writer and educator, stood by Munifa through public scrutiny and personal healing. Their union wasn't just about love, it was a revolution, especially in a music industry where queerness among Black women was often silenced. Now, as advocates and artists, they continue to push for representation, reminding the world that visibility matters. Their love is not only tender, it's transformative. Jamal Terry Sims and Octavius Terry Sims. Jamal and Octavius are not just husbands, they're a creative force. Jamal, a choreographer who's worked with Beyoncé and on major films, and Octavius, a trailblazing fashion designer, met through mutual friends and instantly clicked over shared ambition. In 2014, they married in a glamorous wedding that blended Hollywood elegance with unapologetic Black love. As two creatives, they've collaborated on fashion shoots, performance pieces, and social impact projects. But beyond the artistry lies something deeper: mutual respect and fierce dedication. Both grew up in environments where queerness wasn't celebrated, and now they're using their platforms to mentor queer youth through workshops and storytelling. Their love is bold, visionary, and deeply rooted in service. Together, they remind us that Black queer excellence isn't just a vibe, it's a movement. Jason Bolden and Adair Curtis. Jason Bolden and Adair Curtis are the epitome of Black excellence in style and sophistication. As stars of Netflix's Styling Hollywood, they let the world into their fast-paced life of red carpets, interior makeovers, and deep devotion. Jason, a celebrity stylist, and Adair, an interior designer, married in 2012 and built not only a life, but a brand together. Their on-screen chemistry is effortless, but off-screen it's even more real. Late-night parenting duties, creative brainstorming sessions, and the kind of quiet support that success is built